All right, welcome in everybody. Welcome. Today is a special episode. We are going to be having another Tired Talks podcast with our special guests, Seggellion and BiteSizeHobbit. But yeah, without further ado, let's just bring them right in and get this show on the road. Welcome in, Hobbit and Seggellion. There we go. Now people can hear you.
I was like, I'm invisible.
Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining. Everyone, please say hello to Seggellion and BiteSizeHobbit, two awesome Star Citizen streamers. Let's go ahead and get them some shout-outs right now, and you should all make sure to go follow them. Ladies first.
On Twitch, not in person.
Yeah, that would be stalking, and that's not okay. That's not okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining the two of you. I really appreciate it, and coming to hang out and chat and tell us about yourselves. So I guess my first question for you, or you know what? Actually, I'm gonna let you two introduce yourselves first. Go ahead. Whoever wants to start, say hello. Tell us about yourself.
Whoever wants. Bit. I guess I'll just step over everyone. How's that?
Yep.
I'll just force my way to the front of the pack. I don't know how to introduce myself. Like, I think everyone here knows that I'm just a loudmouth hobbit who's just everywhere on Twitch and not very good at video games.
I don't see anything wrong with that. And then what about you, Seggellion?
Normal.
I have been streaming for a long time and playing Star Citizen for a long time. I enjoy doing cargo gameplay, and I enjoy to take the guns off, or I'm famous for taking the guns off my spaceship. Yes.
Your own ship, not somebody else's.
I have not taken guns off of anybody else's spaceship yet, but after you said that, now I'm kind of thinking about maybe that should be my new thing.
I think you can sell them.
That is
for
really
no
frustrating,
money,
though, because like, I sometimes want to shoot stuff, and I'm in your ships. So maybe don't take all of the guns off. Maybe like leave like a hobbit gun in the back.
It's so
and famous for
anticlimactic.
pizza.
Because like,
Adventure's correct.
you just want to shoot stuff, but like you don't know what's going to happen after you shoot stuff. Like you're never being like, I mean, you're always going on about having a plan, right? I mean, like your plan ends at shooting stuff. You don't know what happens after you shooting stuff, right? I'm just trying to reduce the complexity for you. That's all.
The best pizza. Enchanted Fairy Bee says you have the best pizza.
All right, I'm going to start asking these two some questions. Let's get to know them a little bit better than that short intro we got. So, how did you two meet? Because, you know, just to put some context for everybody, this is like the Star Citizen couple. I mean, there's a couple others, but for me, this is the one. And no one does dates in Star Citizen like you two do. So, my first question for the two of you is, how did you meet?
You can tell the story. You're better at it.
Oh, god dang it. I could tell the story?
Yeah.
I think like normal people meet. Like he was on vacation and was playing on a dating app. And then we matched and I was like, "Oh, this guy's a complete nerd, but look, his dating profile is just filled with pictures of pizza." And I was hungry. So we matched cuz I was hungry.
That's awesome.
And then he was always working. And like one day I was just like, all right, well, let's meet at this time. He's like, oh, I'm going to be working. I was like, whatever, I'll pick you up. Shut up. Get in the car. And we went to an Applebee's because there was nothing else open because he works on Pacific time. So by the time he got off of work on Eastern time, that was too late to go to most restaurants. So we went to an Applebee's on our first date.
Very
fancy
nice.
like Applebee's.
I mean, there's worse.
And they made fun of us. They basically made fun of us the whole date.
Wait.
People at Applebee's, the bartender.
Why did the people at Applebee's make fun of you?
So Seg and I are on the shorter spectrum of humanity. We're closer to the 5 feet range than anything else, I guess. So they put us at one of the big tall tables near the bar that we had to climb into. And then they gave us oversized cups for our drinks that we had to use both hands to reach up to try to drink out of. They were trolling us. We were aware, and we played into it. We didn't care.
That's actually kind of funny. Okay, so how long have you two been together then?
Since February of 2024, technically.
Okay.
Marchish. I kidnapped him. That's actually a longer story, the kidnapping. So
I don't know if...
Not even legal, that one. So basically what happened, he was supposed to go back to Canada, and I told him no. So then he had to change his plane ticket. True story.
We've
So
all
like we
done
went
that.
on one. We went on like 2 dates, and then instead of letting him go back to Canada, I kidnapped him, and he lived with me for like a week and a half. It's normal, right?
So
Everyone does that
that's,
after 2 dates.
I mean, full disclosure, I've done that. So it doesn't seem so weird to me. I've paid for someone change their ticket and stay longer. So, and she was very grateful, at least at first. But okay, so that's interesting. So you met on the East Coast, well, because you're both, or no, you Hobbit are based on the East Coast, and Seg, you're based on the West Coast, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So how is it doing dates in Star Citizen then? Because I've seen you do that on stream, and it's pretty funny and awesome to watch.
I think the dates are in Minecraft, my opinion.
That I've seen too. Yes.
So our Star Citizen dates. Those have been very interesting because it's always him trying to teach me something new, or at least that's what it was at first. And just the fact that I am so incredibly, I am not stupid proof. Like anything I do is something you probably shouldn't have done, and you're like, why would you do that? So like we were in some ship, and in my mind, all the buttons in the co-pilot seats don't work. So we're trying to take off, and I just start pushing every button I can, and his ship turns off, and he starts going back towards the ground, and he's like, what's going on with the ship? And I was like, I'm pushing buttons. I didn't realize they would work.
That's
Or
a
like while
feature.
we're in Quantum, I'll get on an elevator and just, flush myself out of the ship and be like, come get me, I'm scared. Turn around.
I mean, that's pretty common in Star Citizen. It's hopefully becoming less and less common, but it has been in the past. All right. So Seg, you said you've been in the game for a long time. What's a long time? Are you an original backer, or did you come in shortly after?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't. I was going through a very hard financial time back in 2012 and 2013, and my roommate. I was with a roommate, and he got Star Citizen. We had like an agreement. We said that I will back Shrouds of the Avatar, and he would back Star Citizen. I couldn't afford to do both. I didn't feel comfortable because I was honestly like on food stamps, and I thought it's stupid to invest in something like that. I couldn't. Regret it now, I guess, because now I have a 2016 account, not a 2013 account, and my roommate is still out there with the 2013 account. I'm like, son of a bitch, you know. But a stupid thing to have FOMO over, I know, but like that is the start of my Star Citizen story.
Okay, so you
You
found
have
out about
FOMO
the
of
project
everything.
really
I
early
know.
on. So what interested you the most about the project? Because at that point it's still an embryo. There's not much to do, and it's only in 2016, right, that the hangars drop.
Yeah, I'm an old Origin fanboy, so I grew up playing the Ultima games, and I paid a lot of attention to the Origin team and the products they were creating. Because, like, genuinely, I love the software development process. So I love to see, because they were the big innovators, in my opinion, back then. They were doing things nobody else is doing. And what Chris Roberts is doing was competing against LucasArts. In my opinion, from my perspective, LucasArts took X-Wing and TIE Fighter after he did Wing Commander, and maybe, made the next step of that game. Hard to say. Big corporation stepping in,
Yeah.
But what a wild ride it's been for everybody at Origin. I mean, there's a legacy now. There was a game that BiteSize was showing me on Kickstarter now that's done by some Origin people as well. So Origin, I think, was like the campus in the 80s for the kind of seeding the industry of video games that we know today.
Yeah, because Chris Roberts has a history of at least starting some incredible projects. I mean, Wing Commander, I still love going to watch the video of them rapping. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Mark Hamill and the other actor. I can't remember his name. I think he's the same guy that plays Biff in Back to the Future. And it was cool to see them accomplish that back then. And yeah, I think you're right. They were really competing, or they really were at the forefront of like showing what you could do with space games. And yeah, TIE Fighter and X-Wing looked really, really similar in their execution. But I mean, then there was Freelancer was the next big one for him after Wing Commander, or was Ultima before that?
No, Ultima was before that, but he was. I don't know the full extent he was involved with Ultima. I would love to know that. Um, but he
Because
actually took. Sorry, go
Tony
ahead.
Zarek was over at Ultima too, and he was responsible for creating their economy and all that, which is why he brought him over to Star Citizen, right? Or at least it's what I believe I read.
Oh man, let's not talk about the Ultima economy because that was a big dumpster fire. I don't know. I honestly don't know the extent of Tony Zerovic with economy systems. I just know that he had a lot of passion towards it. I sure in heck hope he wasn't involved with the Ultima economy because
That was pretty rough. Gotcha. I never got into Ultima. So, all right, Wing Commander, Ultima, then Freelancer. For Freelancer, we know Microsoft had to step in and finish that off. And I've heard rumors of that in Star Citizen already, but I don't think any of that's true. So we'll see. But all right, so what about you, Hobbit? How long have you been in the game?
Um, when did I actually get the game? Right at the end of 3.22. Like right at the end. Because I remember Seg was like, here, just, sign up. Because I think he wanted the referral reward or some nonsense. And then, but like once I had the game, I was like, well, I might as well play it because I've been all over Twitch. But he bought me the 890 jump. And I don't remember how long ago that was. I don't know when 323 came out. But yeah, no, I went into the game and he threw an 890 jump at me and said, this is the easiest ship to learn how to play the game in, and to learn how to fly in. And I believed him because, I didn't know any better. So somewhere around there is when I started playing. And I'm still not very good at it. And I can't fly small ships very well. But
Well, I mean, if you started off
I
with an
didn't know
890.
anything. Well, what?
Well, I mean, if you started off with an 890, everything smaller must feel really awkward to you.
It is, and I crash into everything and it explodes so easily. God, those other ships aren't built very well, are they?
Yeah, they don't have that dent resistance. The 890
They're
does.
absolutely useless. What's even great, what's better though, is like on our second date, he showed me a picture of like his entire fleet. And because he was like, oh, we need to talk about spaceships. And I was very confused. Because, it's a second date. I don't know what Star Citizen is. I don't know what Twitch is. I don't know what any of this is. I just met a guy on a dating app who made pizza. So he just kind of like grabbed me into this. So like, I just saw like that random picture of spaceships, and I was like, all right, whatever, nerd. And now I can see what all those spaceships are. I know the difference in most of them and how much they all cost. And I have a lot of questions for him that he won't answer anymore.
Oh, that's kind of good because that brings me to my next question. So, Seggellion, I know you're part of an org. I was going to ask you to talk about that a little bit. And then, Hobbit, I'm assuming I know you're actually a part of the same org. So do you tend to work together in the game or still do your own stuff most of the time?
We do stuff separately, mostly. When we
Gotcha.
do stuff together, it's mostly testing the Starfarers.
Oh, for the refueling.
Yeah, we'll do Starfarer testing together, and if there's like a big event, we'll somehow team up together if we can. But for the most part, we go solo because like when I first started, he thought it would be better if I learned how to play on my own. He thought if trial by error, just throw the child in the water and see if they swim kind of a method, I guess is how he teaches people. So, and I think I might still be in the learning phase of trying to figure out how to play this game.
we all are.
Yeah, we're all still learning. It's
Never
a
ends.
constant curve because things change so much patch to patch. So, and then what I always find the most fascinating in this game is the ability for people to find workarounds and how those workarounds become a part of your gameplay essentially. So there's always a learning curve. But all right, so how do you two like the game so far? And I do say so far because we're so far away from a 1.0 or a more finished, polished product. But right now, what's your enjoyment level?
With 4.1 or just in general?
Just in general.
I like it. I mean, I don't have any. So, like, you guys always had like those little arguments over master modes, and I don't really understand the difference because I've never had the game without master modes, and I don't know what that's like or what that even any of that means. The gameplay for me though, because I just do basic stuff. Like I'll just do bunkers or cargo missions or just, you know, do nonsense in the verse to see if I break my ship or break something. So I have fun with that. I enjoy it. I don't think there's, as far as I'm concerned, the game looks pretty polished to me, even with the bugs.
What about you, Seg?
Seg?
How are you feeling
Very-
about the game right now?
It's very refreshing to hang out with someone who's completely foreign to it and experiencing it all for the first time. I mean, at least for me anyways, I'm really like I do love Star Citizen, but it's very much a job for me. You know, and it's a good job. And it's hard to really look at the whole thing. So having bite size here allows me to see what it's all about and reminds me of the benefits with it.
I think
Yeah.
it's an interesting point because to kind of go off of what you both said, like you've only known master modes, and I find that interesting to talk to people like that because Seg and I mean, I haven't been around as long as Seg, but I've been around for about 3 years now. And I did, you know, the transition to master modes was pretty rough. But one of the things that I always thought was really good, and I think that, and I'm curious to see what you think about this, Seggellion, is I thought the most positive thing that master modes brought was making it more accessible to new pilots and people who didn't necessarily have that much experience piloting a space or ships or planes or whatever it may be, because of the segmenting the speed kind of. And one thing I noticed, because I really do like to bring in new players too and kind of teach them some of the basics and then see if they can, you know, survive on their own. And one of the feedbacks I was getting from a couple people that joined around master modes was, oh, wow, this is actually manageable. And one of them had actually played the game previously and only lasted a few hours and stopped and then came back and was like, this makes it much easier for me and less frustrating to get around. Do you feel, Seg, that like that kind of was true with master modes, or do you have a little bit of a different opinion or a different opinion?
Yeah, I definitely lowered the bar. But there's two ways of looking at this. Like one from the sales perspective, where if we make the game more accessible, then we'll be able to broaden the audience for sales purposes. The other side of that is that you know, they do have a vision for what they're hoping to achieve, and it doesn't matter what's easier or more difficult. It's all about creating the experience. So, and like we have to appreciate that as gamers, because if we're just looking for the easiest thing, then we might as well just point and click in Eve and double click on our targets and they'll just combat it instead. That's the easiest thing. So we're here for the experience, and CIG is trying to craft that experience for us. So we have to be mindful of that. You know?
Oh, I completely agree. It's still an alpha. I think for me, my frustration comes from the fact that they have the live channel and the PTU, but that's a separate discussion. When it comes to crafting an experience, yeah, I agree that the immersion you get here, you can't find anywhere else. So yeah, that experience is kind of unique. I completely agree with needing to reach a wider audience. And I think they definitely did that with master modes, but I also, on the other side, understand those that had put in hundreds of hours into mastering that old flight model could feel a bit of frustration when they come into this, and it feels a little watered down, I guess, compared to the last flight model we had, although it's been so long now. What has it been? It's been over a year since we've been in master modes, right? Just
Yeah.
about.
But I mean, we have pain when we play Star Citizen. I'm sorry it's frustrating, but
Oh,
this
but
is
that's-
just
yeah.
the growing pains.
It's
Yeah.
a part of the experience. You know, if you want a finished game with less bugs, I can't actually think of a good example, but I'm sure they
Me
exist.
neither. Yeah,
It's
well,
like-
Solitaire works pretty well.
Solitaire is great. You know, I very rarely have any bugs when I play Solitaire. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
want
was
to say
gonna.
Minecraft, but after being on Seg's
No.
Minecraft server, I'm gonna say it's not less buggy than Star
Well,
Citizen.
Even the newest version, like there are still bugs there, you know.
Yeah, and there's always,
And,
and
like,
it's
and it-
kind of the reality of gaming nowadays. Is everything, nothing's really as polished as it once was. You know, like back in the '90s or early 2000s, because they didn't have the choice. It was a physical copy. If the game was bugged on the physical copy, then you were in serious trouble. But nowadays, with people being able to update through the internet and all that, it's just way more common. And then games have gotten a lot more complex and elaborate, so I understand it still.
Are you familiar with Kerbal Space Program? Have you played Kerbal before?
I absolutely love that game. I played hundreds of hours of Kerbal before I got into Star Citizen.
Can I talk about the Kraken for just a second?
Yes.
Okay, so the Kraken is the result of a floating point error, right? And like what that means is like you design your game engine and it's designed for a certain level of scale. And you know, because like if you're in a first person shooter, you really only need like maybe 100 square feet at most to do your level or whatever. Once you started expanding that up to orders of like trillions, then the scale breaks down. And when calculations start to happen, then there's these floating point errors. And they can be up to like 100 meters in difference based on the size of the universe. So when you try to launch a spacecraft and it's following that scale, it jitters and it'll move and it'll bump itself outside of the physics grid. And that's the Kraken. That's one of the biggest bugs in Kerbal Space Program, maybe the thing that killed it. But how do you fix that? You have to, you know, design a game engine around that scale. And that's really the struggle that all space games are faced with right now.
That's really interesting. I had never heard it like that. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, because in terms of scale, what's bigger than Star Citizen?
Yeah. Well, games like Kerbal that are super simple.
Right.
All you focus on is the calculation of scale, then it doesn't matter. And like just out of curiosity, I was looking at building a game engine that uses this kind of scale. Like I use centimeters as an example. So you build a universe in code using the centimeter as your scale. And, you know, I was looking at doing that into Ruby, and you actually have to build your own like numerical processor to do that. You can 100% do it, but like, oh my God, it's so crazy. And then I look at doing that in like CryEngine or something, and that's just the order of complexity that baffles my brain.
So that's really interesting.
This is when the conversation loses me. I have no idea where he's going.
Sorry.
No. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm just going to push this a little bit more because I haven't had anyone on that can break that down the same way before. So I'm super curious. So we know that the development of the Star Engine came originally from CryEngine, then was kind of tied into Lumberjack, and then became Star Engine. Do you know or have any thoughts on whether you think, because the arguments come up in the past of, you know, should Star Citizen have just switched to Unreal at some point compared to trying to, you know, Frankenstein, CryEngine, and Lumberjack into getting the scale and high fidelity detail that they want, which those two things already are pretty big to try and get in on. Then you have to add in all the gameplay, all the features, the mechanics, all that stuff. So the reason why I bring that up is because recently I think it's, in my mind, it's kind of, they've kind of justified making their own engine when you compare to everything you see. And I'm not a big fan of Unreal 5 right now because I feel like every single game that uses it, they get lazy and they all feel the same when you look at the world and the graphics, especially when it comes to the lighting. And I don't think Unreal has done anything as large as what we've seen Star Engine capable of doing. So do you think Star Engine is still the right choice, or was there a real argument to go over to Unreal?
You have to build your own engine. Like Unreal was never designed for this scale. This floating point error will happen in Unreal, just like Kerbal. And you can't get around that because graphics cards use floats for all of their calculations. So at the end of the day, you want that Premiere graphics, you have to boil it down to a float. And like to get around that, you kind of got to build a preprocessor that kind of like localizes the float calculation. It basically like scales it down. But you have to localize the processing because you have to like bring it back into context once you're done processing it. You know what I'm saying?
So what does that mean? So that means like there has to be a or something calculating ahead of time, or how does that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you got to boil down the scale into a float that's accurate. Because if you don't, you're still going to get that maybe 100-meter variance in the calculation.
So is that where we get a lot of our desync, or is that what we're seeing when we're desyncing?
There's a million reasons for desync. A lot of times it's just latency between your client and server, and that could be anything, especially when there's like verification to make sure that the data is correct on your client. It'll that could cause just to verify that you're receiving what you're supposed to and you're not screwing around with it. You're not like hacking it or anything. There's like a verification in the desync. So there's a constant battle between sending data to the server and the client and then syncing that perfectly. That is, and then there's all the processing that can happen around that. That's the desync.
Okay. This is actually really nice to have someone who knows what's going on technically behind what we're playing in game. So thank you for enlightening me a bit there.
I only know so much, there's all of this other stuff that happens behind the scenes that I don't know anything about. I just, what I know is from game development in the past. Barely anything.
No, but it's interesting to have that perspective because a lot of times we just come in and are used to using the finished or somewhat finished product, right? And most people don't ask themselves, how did we get here? How does this work? So no, I'm always curious with that stuff, and it's interesting to have more of a tech perspective than just the I like it or don't like it, or it plays good or doesn't play good.
I don't know anything about that. That's why I got Hobbit here. She tells me what's good and what's not.
Well, really she's a security expert.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to tell you what's good and what's not good? I'm literally a security expert.
Well, you do tell me, though, don't you?
I have opinions. I'll give you my opinion.
Let's kind of switch over more into discussion of what's going on in the game right now. So, I think we kind of know the answer based off of what you told us already, but are you more of a PvE or PvP person for each of you?
Can I ask the question, are you going to get a Polaris for the Weekalo? Are you going to work to get the Weekalo Polaris?
Who, me? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
of course I am. I don't have to pay for it. I'm going to try and get that. That is an actual great long-term goal that we finally have in the game. It's really, really nice to see. Because one of my biggest problems all the time was, okay, I can mindlessly grind bunkers, bounties, mining, or salvage, but what am I working towards in the end? And having something like that, I feel, is super rewarding and refreshing because now it's like, okay, my effort's going towards something other than just testing the game.
Wait, how do you get it? I've not even heard of this one yet. I have not been paying attention.
It's like a shopping list a mile long. A guy on Reddit calculated it's going to take 2 years for a single person to get. That's hyperbole.
Well, saying that's a long-term goal was an understatement then. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, that was Reddit. Who knows?
Right, who knows? And then, like you said earlier,
who listens to Reddit, right?
Who listens to Reddit?
Yeah, I try to avoid Reddit just so my brain doesn't rot.
Who listens to that?
It's like, but I'm sure there will be a rebalancing and a tweaking, and with new content coming in down the line, maybe that'll be a bit better. I was kind of hoping that maybe it wasn't 2 years, maybe more like 2 months would have been cool. But hey, it's a long-term game.
Well, he said 2 years if you do it by yourself.
Yeah.
But like if you have people to help, right? Won't that just?
Yeah, but they'll want a Polaris too, so.
I mean, but most of the people already own a Polaris.
I do know a few people.
Surely they would just let you have the free one.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. But I mean, I still think the idea is a good one to have all that stuff to be workable or to be able to work towards in game. Now, this is actually kind of interesting. It brings me to another question I had for a little later, but we can jump into it now, which is, do you think so I'm not sure exactly on the details with what you need to get for Wicklow right now. I know there's like mining stuff and other things you need to grab, but how do you feel about certain content being that was a messy way to go about it, but like, are you more interested in seeing that kind of content that can be more of a PvE style content or content that you can do solo, or do you want to see more stuff like what's coming in with, or what has been coming in with the contested zones and then the new Hathor mining facilities?
I was too confused at the contested zone.
You did so good. You did
mean,
fine. It's
There's like 9 million steps. You're like, all right, now we got to put this thing and this thing, and then we go get this thing over that thing. You go left, I go right, and I'm like, what the fuck? Who gave you the instructions on this? Where's the instructions on how to even start this?
Well, I mean, some of those were workarounds, to be honest. So it's trying to get the game to cooperate at the same time. So it should be a little bit more streamlined. But you did absolutely fine, and I do like the fact that it adds a controlled area where PvP happens naturally, and it's not just randomly flying through space.
Not just above Daymar.
I mean, that's a given at this point. They should expect it above Daymar. But have either of you tried out the new Hathor mining facilities? I haven't had the time to yet.
Couldn't get past the griefers.
Oh, really? On
I
the
don't.
PT,
I didn't
or-
say griefers. I didn't mean to say griefers. I didn't get past the player killers.
Got you. So was that something you
I don't
noticed a
mind.
lot then? People hanging out just for the PvP and to try and take the rewards, or was it legit another group trying to come in and do it themselves?
I want to go off on a spiel about this, okay? Because this is an observation I made this week. I have never seen players behave like this before. When new content comes in, usually it's cool for everyone to go and take a look, drive by, whatever. This is the first time that I've just been destroyed trying to go take a look at the new content. And that's in the PTU. I've never seen that before. Like usually, you get a little freak pass to go and see it. And I tried multiple times. Every time I did, I got blown up. So that's interesting. I think that I think the player base is changing. I think there's maybe less software developers that just look at this for like testing, and more like hardcore players now.
Well, actually, I mean, that makes sense, right? Because you were mentioning earlier, opening up the game for a wider audience. So maybe this is proof in a sense that wider audience is actually starting to come in.
Yeah, I think so.
So, okay, well, that brings another interesting point up, which is social tools in this game. Like, how badly needed are those with what you just said? Having a
How will that
better
change
global
anything?
chat, having the
How will that
ability to
change?
hail others, having the ability for, because I feel like this comes in up to the social tools eventually is, security teams patrolling Stanton, for example, or responding to, bounties, or people getting CSs or attacking you. Or in Pyro, for example, if you're aligned with headhunters and somebody from CFP starts attacking you, having headhunters come in to back you up, that whole system. So do you think that'll help quell kind of the influx of, let's just say, Call of Duty players, or do you think...
No, we already have every social tool out there, so I don't even think that should be a priority for CIG, because like we have community built tools and we got stuff like Discord.
Right. So you don't think something in game would help?
I don't see how it would change anything.
You don't think so?
Is there going to be an option in game? Like we all picked our factions, or most of us picked factions of sorts, to get those paints that we all had FOMO over. Again, I say we loosely. Is there going to be like, are they going to implement a system that basically punishes you if you shoot down someone of your own faction? Like, wouldn't that be?
I think that would just be a rep hit, right? Because one of the things you can actually do in Pyro right now, and I did put this to the test myself, is you can swap groups. You can switch your alliance with different people, and you don't actually lose that much rep. What happens essentially is you go immediately hostile with the group you were with, and the new group or you're with, you start to build up your rep with them, and then you can go back to the other group, be at the same rep level just about, and now you just count as hostile with the other side.
I thought once you picked your group, you were basically locked into your group. I
No,
didn't realize you could.
You're considered hostile by everybody else, but you still maintain your rep, and you can switch back and forth, which I actually like, because I had a lot of people with the same reaction. Oh, you're with CFP, I'm a headhunter. Oh, you're with headhunters, I'm with CFP, how dare you? And people would legitimately say, I don't want to play with you. And I'm like, no, I can switch. And this is actually a great tool for people to continue working together and not draw lines in the sand. At least that was my feelings about doing that.
I didn't know we were drawing lines in the sand. I thought we were all just picking our favorite color paints.
No, people are constantly drawing lines in the sands. But a lot of people did it for the paints, let's be honest. When it came to supplier die. Which, what did you two think of that? How did you like supplier die?
That was crazy. That was the most unfun, the least amount of fun I've had in a Star Citizen event ever. And like, I swear the first version of Xenothreat was easier than that.
That, I think it was a little wild. I really liked how much you could, what's it called? Choose kind of which route you wanted to go. If you didn't want to come into contact with players, you could just do salvage. You could just do mining. Mining became a little bit more dangerous because everybody was going to the same clusters to try and get stuff. So there's maybe a little bit more friction there. But I mean, I even tried to do the Datatrine, and the Datatrine was actually relatively fun when you didn't have to deal with other players. I think only once I came into contact with another player, but you know, that's another problem in this game. It's just for people like me who aren't typically looking for a PvP experience. I just go to the lowest pop server possible that I can find on my friends list, which is why I'm always down to grow my friends list. So, but I thought that was interesting. Now I don't have the group yet to go do all the PvP stuff. I do want to do some more of that, and my real only experience has been contested zones. But I think Hathor is definitely going to be a bigger problem for people who are not looking to do intense sweaty PvP. But I don't know. What do you think about that balance that they kind of had achieved in supplier die? How do you feel like that'll carry over to Hathor? Or because I don't know if it'll carry over at all.
Was there balance?
I mean, I think they're balanced in the sense that you could choose different things to do. It wasn't, for example, like contested zones, you have to go do those if you want those top tier components, right?
Right.
So it's not like you only have one route. It's more of a balance in terms of the gameplay options you have, I guess is what I should have said.
I don't know what we're talking about. Like, I know I mean, I can answer about the balancing, but I don't know the future gameplay stuff because I've not been paying attention with the updates. That's a normal thing for me. I don't pay attention to updates and what's new in the game. I basically know what's in the last patch, and then that's it. Supply or die, though, it was balanced in your options. And it was also balanced in the options for you to get blown up and have everything stolen. So, I mean, that's a balance. Like, as long as you don't play on a populated server at a busy time, or you started the event super early before they adjusted the fact that you could just buy all the commodities at a terminal for a reasonable amount and all at once. You know, after they fixed that and it made it a little more complicated, I guess everything seemed balanced. But I don't know any of the new stuff to answer that question. That's a seg question.
It was intended to be balanced, but the Star Citizen is Star Citizen, and it's always gonna Star Citizen. You know what I'm saying?
So that's why I think it's important to kind of take out the actual gameplay or your session experience, because you know each session of Star Citizen can be a little bit different from the last one depending on what bugs you become confronted with. So I try to take that out of the equation when I can because it's still in development. But I think in terms of like the options given to you, I think, they definitely, that was an oversight when, you know, the amount of stock was so high that people could just sit there and buy enough stuff in one go to complete 3-4 missions in one shot. That was a little excessive. Did you both actually get pirated during that? Did you get hit by pirates and lose your stuff, or did you avoid it?
No, we got Star Citizen.
we played at times when it wasn't busy, and we were on servers that weren't busy for the most part. Seg got Star Citizened, I think, twice or three times, and lost every commodity he collected.
Yeah.
And that was that's on him for letting Star Citizen be Star Citizen to him.
Yeah.
And I didn't even try because I didn't care until it got like further down the line where I was like, all right, if he's just going to keep losing his dang crap, I'm just going to log in and do all of this and then make him sign in and do it all at once and hand everything in. So I never got Star Citizen. I just waited till I just did it all in one night by myself. Well, not by myself, but I did salvaging all in one night. So I did 8 hours worth of salvaging and moving cargo with like 3 of us.
Yep.
Did you like the rewards? Did you think they were worth it?
No, they weren't worth it. Freaking FOMO.
That I'm not liking. I like the idea that there's an event every month. I do not like the FOMO part. I wish those just kind of became a part of the game, like a mission chain you can do as a new player to get caught up. I think it'd be nice to have those still available, or at least lootable in game once the event's done.
Maybe. Soon TM.
So
You know what I think would be really cool if we could theory craft for a second is like, you know how there's they have a promise of a hex color for the ship paint. I'm like, what if they give you the paint with a hex color and it's up to you to apply the paint on the spaceship?
like
so
Power
you
Wash
get-
Simulator in space, but painting?
Yeah, because we already have Power Wash Simulator in space, so we just extend the feature outwards to that. But imagine if you're trying to replicate this paint that we got from this event using a system like that. Like you got to put the dark paint on first, and then green on top of that. Eventually, you could probably just get a rip-off version of this paint.
Actually, I think that's a great idea, because you have the best of both worlds, right? You have the people, so I mean, in terms for CIG, they still get people who will want paid skins, who will pay for skins. That's great. But then all the other players who don't like that stuff, who don't want to get into it, I'm sure I mean, you see it in all these different games like DayZ and stuff like that. People go all crazy with what they can do with paints and stuff. And I'm not necessarily going into the mod section yet, but that could be someone's profession in game. I'm a painter. I paint ships, and people come to me. I have a base somewhere. They fly in, they drop their ship off. I work on that, and then when it's ready for pickup, they send me the money, and they grab their ship and they fly away. That could actually be something that would be a good side hustle, for someone, because I don't think that could become, I mean, unless you're really dedicated to it, become your main game loop. But that would be a cool side thing. Or if, hey, I really like this ship, I want to give it my personal touch, let me mess around with this paint gun. And everyone, we know, but the problem is we all know what'll happen with that is someone will come along with a spray paint can and draw a phallus on your ship.
Well, they were afraid of that when salvage was coming in. They said everyone's going to draw penises, and I mean, I haven't seen that done. I mean, sure, it's been done, but
I saw it done. It was done too.
I haven't seen a single penis flying through space other than the Halsey.
I was gonna say, I mean, we've all seen that. Like,
yeah,
the Space Johnson.
yeah.
And Blipped, I was gonna say Blipped makes a good point with the chop shop, and it brings me to a question I have. Why can we not resell our ships back?
Because that's an
why can't I sell a
economy issue.
used ship?
It's an economy
Why
problem.
can I only buy a ship? What if I want to sell a used ship? I want to sell a ship. I don't like. Well, what if I just don't want this anymore? If I bought it in game with credits, I should be able to sell it in game for credits.
I agree, and I think that'll come down the line when the economy is more fleshed out. I also am curious how that'll play out with the new blueprint system they plan on bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be that you can, if you don't want it anymore, instead of selling it, can you salvage it, chop it, and then use that as a platform for another ship? If you want to build the same ship just with a different loadout, kind of, or with better components. Because, I mean, I like the idea of what they're trying to do with the blueprints, but I think it's still a little vague, and we don't have enough details to really know if that's going to be like a good replacement for, your example of selling ships or upgrading your ships and stuff like that. I'm kind of wary of that system coming into game, to be honest. I'm not sure. I think it'll be good for weapons and armor. I'm kind of scared of it for ships. Um, but to go back to the actually reselling your ship, I think there needs to be like a kind of like in Tarkov, a flea market when players can sell things to each other, have that in-game economy kind of come in. And I think there needs to be more money sinks. Like there really isn't enough
Mhm.
money sinks in the game yet either.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because you said that you can't be make a living as a painter in Star Citizen, and I'm like, first off, why not? Secondly, what are the gold sinks that you're defining that you would require more than a painter's salary?
True. I mean, I guess it depends on how crazy the end game or later game content becomes, right? And if there's like uh, a barrier of like needing a specific ship or needing a group, or because you're right, you could just be a painter, and as long as you're a part of an org, you can then just join somebody else, become a part of their crew, or fly with them and accomplish other stuff. So you don't necessarily need the big payout. I guess the question will become how much can we craft and what do we still need to buy in game? I mean, because once you can start crafting med pens, med guns, ammo, weapons, you don't really need to go back to a store and buy them, right?
I think that the concept of endgame is mostly for World of Warcraft style games. I mean, sandbox games, the endgame is optional, and there's alternative ways of obtaining endgame gear in sandbox games.
I appreciate that, and that's actually something that I've been trying to catch myself on is I compare this too much to something like World of Warcraft, and not a true sandbox MMO. But then, okay, what's a good example of another sandbox MMO? Because maybe I'm just
Well,
not well versed enough.
Minecraft is the best sandbox, but Ultima
Gotcha.
Online is a really good sandbox MMO. But it's hard to blend these two things together because they kind of conflict, or at least the players like the activities. It's very difficult to regulate. But in the days of 1997 and Ultima Online being a sandbox MMO, people could do anything you wanted, and a lot of people that made a lot of people angry. So it's not really that popular anymore.
Right. Why do you think you made everybody so angry?
Oh, because of player killing.
Got you. So
Yep.
that's actually a point that Devil kind of brings up. And you brought up too in a different way earlier, which is the older community is more of a software engineer, more adult, more mature community that is one of the reasons why I came in, because everyone was so kind and open armed and helping you get through the hurdles of Star Citizen. With bringing in that newer, let's say more PvP crowd, which I still want to point out, the PvP crowd has been around in Star Citizen for a long, long time. Even before I got into it, I was watching people like Deadfrag or others who do a lot of PvP. They were always doing that, and I think it really became a bigger thing when bounty hunting and piracy was actually possible, and looting other players was a thing. Um, do you think that the PvP is taking the game in the wrong direction, or I guess a better way to see it, what do you two think the direction of the game should be? And I ask because we have one of you who's been here since the beginning and the other who's very new.
Bite size, tell us if you think PvP is moving the game in the wrong direction.
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask this because I literally just bought 2 spaceships last night that were funded by pirates. So I might be a biased.
Well, no, but see, you're a newer player. You typically
I am a
don't
newer
go
player,
for
and
PvP.
I don't go for PvP. I don't like killing people. I kill my friends in the game, not on purpose. I'm just a bad player who shoots everyone in front of me. So PvP, it hasn't really affected my gameplay because, like, you're right, because they will use global chat and be like, hey, whoever just, is camping outside of whatever, you're a whatever. And then I'm like, oh, I just won't go to that area. And that's, so I just avoid it. So I don't think PvP is a huge problem because if you blow up, just, you know, it's a game. Just go play the game in a different area where they're not blowing everyone up. I don't know if I'm just making it too simplified.
No,
Like, I don't see the PvP as a problem.
I think that on a personal level, makes sense just for your own levels of frustration. That's typically how I kind of do it. Now, if I want to have a PvP encounter, then I'll go back after them, and I know they're there, and I know I have access to PvP. That's pretty rare for
Right.
me.
And then you bring friends with you, and you make it a fair fight. And
Fair fight is debatable, but that's one of my biggest gripes with master modes is have the necessity of choosing shields or speed. That's always driven me crazy. It's something I don't like about master modes. But yeah, I think, you know, in terms of just like your choices in the game, yeah, there are other options. You know, it's a really big universe, but Stanton can still feel relatively small at times and cramped, especially right now with a new event going on. I can imagine. So I do agree that, yeah, you can decide to not engage and go somewhere else. But let me use another example. Let's say you have to go somewhere because you're trying to complete something for a contract, or let's use, you know, Bukalo, Waldo, as I like to call him, as an example. You now have to grind a certain amount of things to get up to a certain level, but you have these people who are constantly camping, or there's a lot of activity at a certain area where you need certain materials. If you're more of a solo player, do you think they're going to see that as just a giant source of frustration and a blocker for them? Because not everybody wants to go join a group and have to deal with PvP. Some people just enjoy playing casually. What do you think?
right. So if you're a solo player and you play casually, because I used to like, I sometimes sign on and I'm just by myself. I don't have like an army of people following me to protect the Hobbit. I'm not some princess in the game with a ton of friends. If there's something I need to do and it's being blocked, I'll just switch to a server with less people and I'll try it again. I mean, there's not going to be people on every server doing this. Like that's why we have multiple servers. Now, if it does turn into one massive server with like 10,000 people, yeah, that might be a problem. But at the moment, I can just switch servers and it's not a big deal. At least I don't think it's a big deal.
What do you think, Seg?
Maybe I just have like a very casual response about being blown up, or like, I don't know. Like, I kill myself more than anyone else. So if someone else kills me before I do, I'm like, good for you. You beat me to it. And I don't think it's a big deal, but I think maybe my patience level with Star Citizen is still higher than everyone else's. So
That's a good point. I do think how long you've been in the game will affect your frustration levels. And your ability to push through some of the features. But Seg, I feel like you have a little bit of a different opinion, so I want to hear that before we go to a quick commercial break after.
Did you see the Lord of War movie, the Chris Roberts Lord of War movie?
The Nicolas Cage and Ethan
Yeah.
Hawke? Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny, like, these personalities that we have on this planet. We have these very influential people, these Hollywood directors. You know, they know stuff of the world that maybe we don't know. And I think that I think he really nailed it on the head when he made Lord of War, because like now he has this business where he sells weapon systems through like video games, and it's very lucrative. So it shows that violence sells, and without violence, I mean, we might not be able to develop Star Citizen because it's such an ambitious project. And this is a byproduct of that. So I wish we didn't have that, but that's just a reality of our species, I think. We're a violent species, and this is just kind of an outlet of that. It's a defect. I think it's a defect, by the way.
I
don't
hear
think
what you're
violence is a
saying.
defect, but we're not gonna.
That's an interesting one.
Well,
Yeah,
we
that
should
becomes a
talk about
deeper
that.
that becomes a deeper cultural thing, and I'm actually totally willing to have, because that's an entire podcast on its own, though.
Violence is a defect.
Like, or just, you know, the cultural aspect of, you know, needing to have violence in games or constantly being attracted to it. The type of person who finds more joy in random acts of violence rather than cooperation and group play. Or maybe that was a little too severe. Some people just enjoy the challenge of fighting others, right? And I've come across those people, and there's a lot of them in real life, and it doesn't necessarily translate to violence. It can translate to, you know, trying to be better at doing the same job as somebody else, trying to have more skills in a certain area, trying to be a better athlete, I mean, things like that. So I think there's a natural part of competition that comes in, but I think where the needless violence and aggression, that's, I think for me, maybe more of the conversation, because there does seem to be some of that in this game to a certain extent, which, again, I think the talking about griefing compared to PvP and stuff is a too long of a conversation to try and squeeze into here right now. But I think that's something that we kind of have to take into account, not just in this game, in every game. Tarkov as an example, PUBG as an example, Call of Duty as an example. Any other game where you're trying to compete for, whether it be loot or an objective, stuff like that, can bring out the worst in people, because not everybody is, calm and reserved. Some people are a bit more, let's be polite, emotional, or aggressive. So I kind of rambled on with that one, but that's a really, we could just go into that subject for the next 3 hours. There's so much to dissect there and try to understand, human behavior. Why do they want these things? I've always been very interested in player interaction. Why do you feel the need for some people to go attack and, take it away, and why do some people feel the need to not go the opposite route and find a group and work together to try to achieve the same objective, and Supply or Die was kind of that. It was a good example of that in the game, because it was either let's team up and go mine, salvage together and get this stuff, or it's let's team up and let's go hunt down other players who have done the work for us and take it from them.
Yeah, you need to go to a commercial break, because this conversation can get extremely long, because I think the way I respond to a lot of things versus someone else, the male versus female response to people overreacting and, the throwing the controller at the wall type of players. I think I might have a different reaction to those type of players versus like a lot of the other male players would. So I think that's a huge psychological conversation.
So it's the difference between testosterone and estrogen also?
Possibly, yeah. There's a...
I just think that this is what Star Citizen actually is, Letiredd. So when you talk about spaceships and desync and all that stuff, that's a technology, but this is actual Star Citizen, the psychology. And we are privileged as streamers that we get to see it. We get the overview. So we
Absolutely.
can see the tribes, and we see who's fighting, who's not fighting, the drama. We get to see all that. That's what Star Citizen is.
It's a life experience.
Totally. 100%. Yeah.
No, I agree. All right. Okay, so maybe let's change it up a little bit and go away from the dissecting the human psyche.
Yeah. Sorry. It happens so quickly.
Let's talk about...
Come back to meth.
How do you feel about ship gameplay and the way that's going? We touched briefly on master modes. One of the things I've started to see come up is with engineering, a certain amount of people are starting to think that the bigger multi-crewed ships are going to be the meta. How do you feel about that?
Doesn't that make sense, though?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. But I guess my question is more of how is that going to be feasible in terms of group play? Is Star Citizen... do more people want to be pilots, or do more people just want to play together, kind of thing? Because if you got to now have one pilot for 4 to 6 crew members, manning turrets and all that, do you think that Star Citizen will maintain its same allure if now people are more filling in roles than, being the star? I guess if you're a pilot, maybe you could compare it to that, or being more in control of certain things, or giving up that to just be a support role.
We just had this conversation, Seg and I, because everyone wants to be Han Solo. And when they buy the ship, when you purchase this ship with your money, and then you have to then go work on someone else's ship instead, you're just going to have a bunch of people looking at each other and they're like, no, I paid $1,000 for this ship. Get on mine instead. So unless they're going to let you hire NPCs, the group gameplay is feasible at times, but like you're not going to be able to have a Polaris be your daily driver because
I don't think
you're
it's
not
meant
all
to.
like
Yeah.
everyone's going to want to be the pilot.
What do you think, Seg?
We prepared for this question. We actually argued before, like 2 days ago, about this. Did you give her the questions ahead of time? And we like
No, I
prepared
gave
for
her a
this one?
loose idea of where we were gonna go,
He
and
did,
then
but the loose idea turned into an argument between us.
Yeah, it
No.
multi-hour, and it ended with
Like,
tribalism.
I wanted to. I
That
just
makes
wanted
a
to
good
go to
point.
bed, and
Yeah.
the argument just kept going.
But like one thing that's funny though is that yesterday when Bite Size was streaming, ball bounces or Rob Tubble was complaining because he couldn't player kill because there was all these whales in Polarises, and he was like, "Damn it, I can't kill all these these one individuals in. They weren't a group; they were just one person, a whale in a Polaris." And I'm like, "That's hilarious." So the whales have like a way of protecting themselves in the game now, especially with the auto turrets, right?
Mhm.
And also, one thing in our bite-size argument that we had the other day, we were talking about server blades as well. So whenever we get into a multi-crew discussion, you just throw server blades in there, and that's like a curveball. So,
And you mean like the Blade AI, where they now man your turrets for you?
well, turrets, and there's supposed to be server blades for all sorts of activities. So it could be anything: engineering, power distribution, comms.
Yeah, which would make sense, especially when you have a larger ship that you may not necessarily be able to get 10 people to join on at all times. Which I think more and more sounds like something that's 100% necessary that needs to be in game. Because we've all heard about the NPC crews, right? But that I don't think is going to be a reality anytime soon.
What's preventing the reality from that?
I think it's probably they need to continue to refine the server meshing so that all the servers can handle the amount of data and the calculations that would need for the AI to, make sure they're completing their tasks. And I do want to say credit where credit's due. I find what they've done with server meshing absolutely fascinating. And, give them a round of applause and a pat on the back for that. It's not great yet. Sure, no problem. But just that it's gotten to the point where it is, like as someone who's not as tech savvy, I'm super impressed.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
But do you think that
I was gonna say, I don't see it being plausible to make a lot of the ships dependent on having multi-crews, because then you turn into part of our argument turned into the sales, like the sales force of making money, of selling spaceships. You're not going to want to buy that big spaceship if you need a crew.
I won that argument. Just saying.
Did you win? How did you win that? Let's not.
As it wasn't about the ship sales. The ship sales aren't going to last forever. Eventually, they're going to run out.
Well, they're definitely not going to last forever if they change the gameplay that the larger ships need a crew.
Yeah.
Then you won't be able to sell that ship at all.
Then I think it'll become certain org members who have disposable income or like to flex will be like, don't worry, guys. I got the badass Idris ready to go. I got the Polaris. I got the Kraken. I've got, insert ship here.
Which
You're not allowed
already
to buy the
exists.
ship he's naming.
The what?
I said he's not allowed to buy the ships you're naming right now.
But if he CCUs, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Don't
totally.
start. Jesus.
I know it's like we're part of a cult or something, hey?
It kind of.
God,
I mean,
don't.
the cults of Chris Roberts, maybe.
Yep.
The thing I have with ship gameplay is I think the big question mark is engineering. The huge question mark is what will engineering do to that? And I mean, because to kind of go in deeper, I think as to what would make it a meta is not only do you have, let's say, all your turrets manned, but you also can have someone, seriously boosting power output and really helping maintain the ship at the same time, depending on how elaborate the system is, obviously. That can give you a real boost in a fight. And I think how that engineering is implemented is going to affect, the multi-crew gameplay. If the engineering is done poorly, I think people will naturally go to medium-sized ships and smaller ships until that becomes more enjoyable. Or it could be, you know, it's such a hit, it works so well, it's kind of considered OP, and everyone's now looking to be a crew of 5 to 10 in a Polaris or a Hammerhead, or, you know, something that can pack a punch. You know, Perseus coming in soon, or whatever it may be. I mean, do you think? Sorry.
One observation that I made when we're working on this question is that, like, there's like two ways of like looking at the ship gameplay in the future. Is like, yeah, you have your engineering and your multi-crew gameplay, but you also have the specific role of the ship. And like, they might be discouraging the use of capital ships, and we could just focus on the single person ships, you know, where you got like your mining ship, your refueling ship, like dedicated role based ships. So it's like you have that aspect of it, and then this is a ship gameplay, so you have that aspect of it, and then the other side is just the multi-crew experience. So you have these two types of ship gameplay in Star Citizen.
Which is yeah, actually it's a good point. And so do you think that as we go further into the game's development, the support ships will start to shine a bit more?
Yeah, maybe. Anything could happen. You know, they're balancing all the time, every patch, right?
Right. So, okay, let's talk about ship sales for a second. Because you brought that up. And I've always been...
Who brought up ship sales? Bite Size?
Who did it? Who did? Duh, mute her.
What ship did you buy, Bite Size?
Hobbit bought a
I
ship?
don't buy nothing. No.
Nothing.
I don't buy ships with real money. And
So,
I don't buy ships with real money because I don't have money.
so okay, here's my thoughts are on this, and I just want to go back a little bit. So, I agree, and I think a lot of people forget that they had stated way back when that 1.0 would bring about the end of ship sales, right? Is that actually feasible for them to do, since it's been such a successful funding method? And do you think that might outweigh the benefits of no longer having that monetization and game, and then make it be purchasable only through playing the game? You know,
Ship sales can only last so long because you have to have an artist behind and a developer behind the scenes supporting and building the next ship, and then you have to have a marketing campaign pushing that. So there's a lot of expense involved with ships. I think eventually they'll just run out.
You think it'll just run out? Even though, I mean, it has proven to be a rather successful funding method. I don't necessarily like it, but I do have to recognize that they've gotten a lot of money through it.
Well, they've also made a lot through armor and guns and paints and anything else. Now sofas and beds, furniture. One thing they haven't even started yet is real estate. And most MMOs go down the path of real estate. So you know that's the ace up their sleeve.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's something that we'll see once land claims become a thing. Like, because they're gonna probably have to give a limit to how many land claims you can have, and one of the ways to, you know, go over the limit would potentially be to spend real money on additional land claims. So you can, like, let's say if you're a mining org or a mining oriented person, you can now spread out and have multiple mining bases. Being able to buy land, I think, with real money is something that I find a little weird, but I do get it. And I don't know, to go back to the monetization part of it, like, I think because they don't have outside investors and their backers / investors are us, the players, I think they will always need to maintain a certain level of monetization in the game. And it's just something that I think has just become normalized in the industry. You know, people go ape shit and applaud games that come out with no monetization or very little, right? Because it's a rarity now. So I think most people have kind of accepted that. But what I'm worried about is, I'm not so worried about the game losing their funds if they stop doing ship sales. I don't think they will. It depends on how many players they're bringing in and what other things, like you brought up, like, you know, being able to buy territory, land claims, what kind of stuff they'll do with that. But I think it's easy for people to have the opinion that it's a store citizen game sometimes. You know, if you go onto the website and you look at the site, it's It's your first time. Those numbers are pretty insane. The cost of certain ships, but I don't know. I do hope that they go away from it. I don't know if they will ever. I think I'm okay with it as long as it doesn't push into the FOMO. And that's what I really get annoyed with from them, is the limited ability to buy ships. I mean, unless you're like Hobbit and then you just don't buy anything, but
yeah. Well, you have that option.
You do.
What if, when they stop doing ship sales, now every ship is basically purchasable in-game and you always get to keep it, and now what is the benefit of all the people who spend real money versus in-game money on those ships? Is Seg's Caterpillar going to have more of a benefit because he's a backer who pledged it versus my Caterpillar? Not all of them, Tamoka, are bought with LTI.
That's a good point. I think,
and I think that they said when they do insurance, won't there be a way in game to also purchase insurance? So what is the benefit of everyone who's spending money on the spaceships?
Well, pat on the back for supporting the game.
Yeah, that's really it. It's a pledge.
And
we get blueprints though.
Yeah,
we
blueprints.
Can build these ships afterwards.
They'll have to come up with something to give incentive for people to either want to continue playing the game and not getting pissed off that their ship is lost. Essentially, that can never happen, right? It would be a nightmare, and someone would take them to court if something you had spent hundreds of dollars on is no longer available. So because not everything has LTI.
Disclaimer when you purchase it, though.
No, it's that it may change. It may change the ship. So it's like, for example, a lot of people got upset with master modes because well, I bought this ship because it flew and handled a certain way, and you took that away from me. Their saving grace in that was their wordage in the agreement, which is all of this is subject to change. If we're generalizing it, but where I think they're playing in dangerous territory isn't so much in the ship sales. I think it's more in how they present the game as a playable live service game.
Yeah. Well, man, they were advertising the Hull C for I don't know, it's almost 2 years now, and it hasn't been running until this patch. Oh man.
Or it might run for a patch for 2 weeks and then breaks again. It's been, and that's a $500 ship.
Yeah.
Consumer protection is something that's now becoming more and more talked about. EU is moving to ban a lot of the monetization in games right now, and if that goes through, it'll bleed out to the rest of the world. I've fallen. I'm not going to use the word victim because that would be bullshit. I was well aware of what I was doing, but I fell into the money pit with online games, like FIFA, being a soccer fan, football fan.
I didn't know there was anything to buy there.
Yeah, so whoever came up with this was a evil genius. So essentially they monetized competition. They monetize the people's need to beat each other and to have the best team possible. So with Ultimate Team, you can buy in-game currency, which allow you to open up loot boxes, which are essentially card packs, and get certain players the chance of getting the best players in the game. So to put that into Star Citizen terms, it would be if you could spend real money on an in-game currency that would give you a surprise hanger box, and every time you paid for that surprise hanger box, you might get a Polaris, you might get an Aurora, who knows. People dump tons of money in that because they're chasing the best team, because they're and you could easily I've shot it down because I didn't agree with it necessarily, but I've seen people try to relate that to Star Citizen in terms of people are just going to feel the need to dump more money to get a better ship. Not in exactly the same way as a super competitive game like FIFA or mainly sports games. Or this isn't even, it's for me, it's not supposed to be as sweaty as a Call of Duty and Star Citizen, except for extraction zones, but that's the point of those zones anyways. All that to say, if people start trying to go down the path of I need to spend more money to buy a better ship to be better, I don't think that works in Star Citizen. There's a skill component to it and an understanding of the different components of the game, mechanics that work within your ship, right? Shields versus speed versus weapons, all that stuff. So I don't know. I'm rambling again a little bit. Somebody take over.
Well, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of a game that I've dumped money into, and like maybe I've just always been poor, or if I just don't have that kind of competitiveness in me. But like the only game I can think of is Lord of the Rings Online, and I paid $200 for a lifetime account in like 2010, and I still play it. So I don't even think that counts as dumping money into it. I think that was just a good investment.
I mean, yeah.
So like I can't imagine, like it's hard for me to wrap my head around, for instance, Seg, it's hard for me to wrap my head around how he approaches the ship sales and the FOMO and the paints and because I don't have that in me. So this conversation is very confusing for me because I've never had that in me to be like, oh, I need this or I need that or I don't want to miss out on this. I'm like, no, I can miss out on it. That's cool. I'm all right with that.
I think it's a little different for certain people. So like, I'm not afraid of missing out. I'm afraid of not being as good as I could be. And I think it's, going back to the psychology of marketing and gaming and like, they've gotten very good at getting you to want to give up money. Now, Belgium brings it up. You brought it up. It's been a reality for me as well. Like sometimes you're just broke and you can't spend the money on it. So,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't afford it. And that's,
that also wanting to be the best though, like when I told my mom I got peer pressured into streaming playing video games on Twitch, she was like, do people actually watch you? I was like, I don't know, like 30, a stream, not a lot, but people watch me. And her response with like a straight face, she looked at me and she goes, why? You're so bad at video games. And I was like, I know. So like maybe that's it. Maybe it's just like I've never been good at video games and I've accepted that. And I know buying or paying for anything isn't going to make me a better player. I'm always going to be the lowest common denominator. I am the sitting duck you can shoot at.
Same.
But
I get
No, go ahead.
spaceships so I can live that life. Big spaceship protects me.
Yeah, I get that. And I think that's why a lot of people went to, Polaris's since 4.0 to have that peace of mind to a certain extent that even if you get attacked, you have a really strong chance of getting away no matter what.
Yeah.
And I get that. And I think that'll drive ship sales to a certain extent for some people. I definitely think there's a variety of reasons why people fall into that or want to do that. When you're broke, you look at it and you go, well, I don't understand how they could possibly want to do that. They could be doing so many different things with that money. If I had that money, I would be doing this. That's typically the mindset you kind of get into. But then at the same time, when you have a bunch of disposable income, which I've rarely had the occasion to, taste that, you're just kind of like, who cares? I can. I think for me personally, the realization I've been coming to over the last couple months and having discussions with people who are outside of the game, who watch the stream or watch some people stream it but don't play it themselves. It's good to talk to those people sometimes because they kind of help pull you back and be a little bit more objective as to what's going on. Because like you said, Seg, like as streamers, as content creators in the verse, as people who are just invested in this game, you see things that, wouldn't necessarily be seen by outsiders or people in different positions. But at the same time, you kind of can get stuck in it, with your nose, stuck in it, and you need to be pulled back out sometimes. And it's nice. But anyways, where I'm going with that is essentially, I don't want to give Star Citizen any money, and it's not a have or not have problem. It's they've made too much and not delivered consistently on what they've promised. And I think I'm going to use the example of where they went in January. Okay, guys, we're so sorry. We hear you. We get it. It's time to work on playability and stability. 2 months, and then here's more content. The year of stability lasted 2 months. Now, I'm being very mean in a way with that statement because I feel like I'm being a little unfair. They still have plenty of time to fix things, and the reality is it's still an alpha, and they're going to be putting in new things no matter what. Even if we can talk, they claim or truly are making more efforts to make it stable and playable. I think the only thing that'll seriously drive a big push for stability or playability would be a lack of funding, because you're not going to fund a game you can't actually log into or play for more than 5 minutes without running into a game-breaking bug. And when I say game-breaking, I mean something that ruins your playability or is just such a hurdle that you cannot physically continue on in the game. Elevator's not working, hangar's not opening. Even though for certain of those there are workarounds, but let's say if you can't even get out of your hab, it's kind of game over. The workaround has become backspace and go to the med bay and then make your way out. But, all those little steps add to the frustration of the experience. And I think the only way, unfortunately, that CIG truly hears you, and I mean you as in us, the player base, the community that supports this game, is sometimes just closing your wallet. And they need to see that drop in funding for them to kind of potentially wake up. I thought they had started to see that in December, but then when I saw the numbers being put forth for sales in January and February, I was scratching my head going, well, I thought people were spending less money on the game, but it's not really the case.
Yeah, but engineers still got to get paid, and like you avoiding them is not going to help that.
No, but we also know that
the
they've claimed to have 2 years
though.
of money in their accounts to continue development if it dried up today.
We don't know that for sure, though.
Of course,
that's a guess by the community. But we know they have to make sales to keep the lights on.
Again, I'm newer to this than both of you, and my patience level has not been pushed over the edge on as many occasions, right? But I look at Star Citizen as software testing. Like it's an alpha, so we are alpha testing. I realize you've been alpha testing for over a decade, and some people are tired of alpha testing it, and they want like a beta test, maybe. But
Yeah.
I don't, I don't like when I get stuck in an elevator. I'm just like, well, stuck in an elevator, and like I don't have that frustration where I'm like, I kick the wall. I just look at it as a piece of software that I'm testing. And when they release this new content, I'm assuming in my brain, it's because they want us to test a particular aspect of it. So they release an event or content that aims us at what they want us testing. So like right now they need us testing the area in Daymar or something. So they're like, let's just release an event here and then send everyone there so we can get the data for it. So I see it's new content, but I feel like the new content is targeted for a reason. Like, I don't think they're just willy-nilly being like, here's content, just, okay, did it ruin anything? I mean, I hope not. I hope it's not random new content. I hope there's a reason behind the madness.
I mean, I agree with that. The supposition that, and I touched about this briefly earlier, that live means live is not true. It's still just it's still the alpha, right? It's just they're trying to add a step. Yeah, it's still the test, and a lot of people forget that. But for me, that's a partly on CIG's fault for marketing it as more of a live service, playable thing than what it truly is, which is back the game to test it for them, so that hopefully we get to the end result in this ambitious dream.
And this game is really hard to talk about to other gamers who don't play this game because they don't want to hear it. They like full up stop and they're like, that game is terrible. Why would you play that game? Don't. And like, it's so hard to explain to people. I'm like, first off, stop calling it a game. It's not done yet. Like, and like the amount of work that is being put into it, it's not done. It's not, I was like, I'm testing something for someone.
I do want to add something to this is that I felt like this Pyro event was another flavor of Xenothreat. Like it seemed like the next evolution of Xenothreat. So I hardly consider it new content. This just seems like an iteration. Also, I did notice that like I was constantly, while 4.0 was released, I was constantly comparing it to the 3.0 release, going from 2.6 to 3.0. because it came out in December, and then it was literally March before we could play the game again because it was so broken during those 3 months. And during that time, it was Deadsville. Nobody played it when 3.0 was there. So now, we have this event, this huge FOMO event, keeping us glued to the game while they're in their most critical part of testing. And I know that because otherwise, the people who don't have the FOMO, most people would just be gone, and it would be Deadsville again.
And I think that's actually a great point. I think, actually, okay, so yeah, it kind of makes me want to take a step back and go, okay, so I understand a little bit more why maybe these events are so important for them to drive player count. We can agree and disagree with the FOMO aspect of it, but at least the FOMO is more around in-game rewards than spending money for something anyways, or a limited something on the store, right? So that's interesting. But I think Arcane put it really well is PTU is the pre-test, the pre-test would be Evocati, then PTU would be the unofficial test, and live is the true test of will it hold up to the highest player count we can get to. I personally just do not like the PTU.
Oh, you don't?
I do not, and here's why.
Interesting.
Because, like what Hobbit was saying, I 100% fully agree that this is an alpha and we are trying to build a game. And I think in that sense, I am more than willing to deal with a lot of shenanigans if it helps push the game to being stable and complete sooner. I think now, but I do completely understand and hear their argument of well, when we do our first test, we don't want it to be thousands and thousands of people. We want it to be a bit more of a select group so we can test certain things out. Totally understand that and feel like that's, their prerogative, whatever works best for them and their development and how they've figured it out in their system. But at the same time, maybe have Evo encompass a bit more people from the PTU and then just go straight to a live build. Or stop doing your stupid wave system, get everybody playing it in the PTU at once, or go back to what you do in 3.17. Give me an incentive to go play your PTU that then carries over to the live, money, so that I'm not grinding something that has no progression on a build that's just going to end up in my live, where then I'll finally have to start doing progression when it finally hits live. So for me, it's not so much. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Can I tell you why that won't work?
Tell me.
Because then you'll be allowing the people in to the testing who basically did what Seg said they did, where they just go to where the new content is and there's player killers everywhere and you can't test anything because you've allowed too many people into the area without vetting anyone. So now the people who actually want to test that new material can't get to that new material. And I'm not saying, PvP shouldn't be tested, but if you're trying to test particular aspects of the game and you've got, the PvP people in, you're not going to be able to test those other aspects.
I 100% agree.
You do get to see how it's going to work.
That's still CIG's fault. Because
they
don't want to pay testers.
Unless you make a system... Right, unless you make a system where if you're not actually uploading bugs into Spectrum and you're not actually taking your, QR screenshots or whatever, and you're not actually doing anything, then you get kicked out of PTU. But they have a pay subscription to get into the PTU waves. So that's gonna they need a new way of doing that if you want them to actually test things in PTU. And
I agree with you, but that's what I was saying is there's no incentive. What's the incentive? Nobody wants to be a tester. No one wants to pay a game to become a tester. I pay for the subscription as a content creator, but it's purely so that I can see certain things sooner than when it goes to live. That's the only reason. It's not because I really want to test. There's another part of that. I agree with you in what you're saying. You're 100% right, but you have to take into account the fact that CIG is not paying testers, or they claim to have a certain amount of testers, but I would seriously dispute the validity of that claim on their end because of how things are in Evo and how things are when it gets to PTU. If you guys want to have that control of an environment, you have to pay the people to do that, or incentivize the ones that really want to, because just having an they have to consider themselves incredibly lucky to have such a dedicated group of people who are willing to become Evocati testers and do it the right way. Another thing I would just want to add is I myself have tried to do the right thing and go to the issue council and post the bug and the problem that I've had. And when I know the problem hasn't been resolved and I see that they say, oh, ticket solved, or, you know, problem solved, that's a frustrating.
That's because in order for it has to have enough upvotes or enough people commenting, and you have to have this many people who say they also had it, or they just ignore the bug. That's frustrating. I can see that one being a little bit annoying. Because, like, I still can't... There's a invisible wall in the cargo elevator that has just always been an invisible wall in the cargo elevator. And I hate it. And apparently, we're not going to fix it. Because not enough people hate it. It's just me.
I mean, that's where... So I've had people come into the stream and be like, hey, I just posted this issue. Do you mind upvoting it? I'm always for that. Because I understand the importance of it, right? But I don't think everybody has the same care of that. Because, you know, goes back to the marketing of a more live game. They don't feel like they're coming in to test. They want to play the game. But you're right. You're 100% right.
Seg can attest to this. There are personalities who really do enjoy testing. I love testing software and breaking it. I think it's great fun to go in, see what I can break, see what'll work, see what won't work, see what happens, just do any chaos I can. And there are people like me who are willing to just test this for free just because it's fun to us. But that's not... Yeah.
A lot of the older people, we first started out because we were paying to be game testers.
And like I said, I applaud all of you for that, because that took a certain amount of dedication and belief into the project. And for the reality is, without people like you who did that kind of stuff, I don't think the game would be anywhere near where it is today.
I think they're very thankful towards, like, I'm Avocado, and I always think they're very thankful towards Avocado. I think they treat us very well. So I'm happy to do more testing with them. But honestly, I don't think the testing environment is what it used to be anymore. Like, there's just not enough of us that you're describing that are willing to do this stuff, and too many mainstream gamers. And that's why you see them in the PTU now.
Because they want to see the things before. They want to try out their whatever game loop is before. And they're starting to treat it almost like a burn copy of live. You know, I mean, like sorry, the reference I was trying to make is like a burner phone, like something you can just toss away, do whatever you want there, be ridiculous, and there are no consequences.
I mean, that's what I like about PTU, though, by the way.
Well, okay, and I totally get that. You know, free to test things or try things with zero consequence.
Yeah.
That can be fun. But then I guess it just depends on how you look at it. For me, I had zero problems playing PTU back in 3.17 because of the incentive. You know what I mean? Like, okay, things aren't working so great on live right now, but there's this new patch that'll help us in PTU. I'm going to go play in that and have the incentive of, you know, a boost of cash when I get into live and, you know, do my part kind of thing. I've completely gone away from that. I don't want to test it out anymore. And Okay,
well, this is going to be a conspiracy theory. But I feel like they push people into PTU for testing by degrading the live servers on purpose.
Oh, goodness.
Because whenever PTU opens, those live servers tend to get real trash real fast. And the only servers that work tend to be the PTU ones. So if you can get into PTU, that's where almost everyone goes because it works.
Do you think
but
it's...
that
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That just illustrates the scale issue. And like we see that when we test Star Citizen too. It's like we only get certain bugs at a certain scale, and then as soon as we increase the scale, we get a whole new set of bugs. Phenomenal. I don't know how it happens.
I mean, like, I think though that should be something that, I mean, at least personally, I completely accept that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a part of Star Citizen, and I think sometimes it's just about how you know, people come into the game and perception. That's why I get really annoyed with some of their marketing material, because people come into the game with a certain idea of what they're going to be able to do, and then they see the reality and they're like, oh, I didn't think it was like this. It's like, yeah, well, that was not the greatest marketing tool from CIG. I mean, it's great because they look fantastic. I love their videos. And I saw somebody make a comment on a YouTube video the other day that I thought was a great idea. It was like, stop making these marketing clips and give us an in-game animated show or something that showcases what you can do with the engine rather than just doing stuff in, you know, CGI. I think that would serve them way better than just trying to make us believe that that's how it looks when you get in game.
That's also true.
The worst one, in
Also,
my
people
opinion,
gotta
was the
stop.
whole C
People
one.
gotta stop listening. People have to stop listening to everything they see on some of those CGI made videos. Like, I realize that, they're like, oh, we're gonna introduce fire into your ship, and you're gonna have to put the fire out. And then I'm just like, are they? What
But
are
then
they?
it's always the
So, like,
argument of like, this, we're getting the cool stuff now, but it'll work later. Like, it'll
and
work
like
later.
when I see these videos and I see them like promoting certain things, my brain's like, you again, because Cinzy keeps complaining about it. You can't get the elevator to work. I really don't think you're gonna light our ships on fire randomly. Like, I don't think that's gonna happen. I know. I realize you're telling us it's gonna happen. I'm not buying it. And then when it didn't happen, I was like, yeah, I didn't think that was gonna happen.
Okay, so a counterexample of that was when server meshing came in. I didn't think this transition from server to server would be seamless. And now it wasn't always. Sometimes you drop out of quantum and then have to start it again. But when it started actually working, I was like, holy shit, I didn't actually think this would happen so quickly. So I thought that was pretty impressive. So I think it depends on what their priorities are, right? I think the server meshing was clearly a giant priority, but hangar doors, not so much. Elevator doors, not so much.
Anything at the space station, not so much. And why is there always one spot at Everest Harbor where I trip and I walk with a limp for 2 minutes? What's with that?
I don't know. That might
Why is
just
that a
be you and
feature?
your unluckiness. But all right, more talk about Star Citizen. Let me turn off the music. I just realized. Oops. Okay, so kind of left off on this, but I want to push it a little bit more since it's been, kind of a underlying thing for the last 3 months. But have you felt... Okay, let's try it this way. Do you feel like what CIG is trying to do right now is good or bad? Super simple, pretty general.
In what sense? Like,
Yeah.
Like the way they're developing and the choices they're making, do you feel like that's a good thing or a bad thing? Or do you feel like it's hurting player count, player base, creating too many divides in this community? Like, is this a good route or a bad route?
I don't think it matters because like there's always new people coming, and there always will be new people coming. So there's software projects out there that are more worse managed than this, that are less funded. So it's just another software project, We're here.
I mean, I feel like if they invited me to their meetings and their powwows and I knew what they were actually trying to accomplish, I could answer this question and be like, I don't think they're on the right track of what they're trying to accomplish. But I can't actually see what they are trying to accomplish other than making a game, which I don't. It's in production, so it's hard for me to answer that because like it is constantly changing. So how do you get to a point that makes most people happy? Because you're not going to make everyone happy. Like, there's no way CIG is going to make decisions and they're on the right path for the game to be perfect for everyone. That will never
true.
happen.
No,
Yeah.
it's
So
perfection is unattainable, but should be, strived for kind of thing. But I have to agree because it's such a heavy development, everything's going to change now. Like, yeah, as someone who does a lot of project management, unless, it's really easy to critique from the outside, but unless you're aware of like what's going on the inside, it's super hard. I kind of fall in line with Seg in the sense that it doesn't really matter so much. I know it's kind of a question that a lot of people ask themselves, and to go back to what Devil was saying in chat a second ago is, he asked, do you feel like there are more bugs now than before, or don't you feel like there are more bugs now than before? I would say yeah, but that would be logical. There are more systems in place in the game right now than there were before.
Yes.
So I think, to a certain extent, it's kind of like, well, both sides are kind of right. But then I think the reality is more, well, we're in it for the long haul. It's not going to be over tomorrow. 12 years of development already to get where we are. And I think that's something that really hurts CIG. Because when you look at when I try to look at things objectively as to what's been happening in the last 2 years, right, I feel like they've made a decent amount of progress. I feel like they've pushed things out pretty quickly, and a decent amount of, don't necessarily call it content, but like features, some content, I think it was Cindy or somebody else made the comment in chat way earlier, which was, I just want my, or Shakma, I want my Orison platforms back. They've also taken some stuff out, and I miss those platforms too. I loved flying around Crusader for that. So I think for me, the question boils down to like, well, this is where we're at. The reality is the game's not done. And so, yeah, I agree. It's not so much a good or bad, but that's what you see more in the community right now. Is I think this is, a good direction because more PvP, and then others like, I think it's a bad direction because not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. But okay, so
I think the free flies are a bad idea.
Well, they rolled that back. They were like, okay, we heard you.
They did, but they're going to do it again at some point. And I feel like every time they implement a free fly, it always seems like a bad idea.
For me, I think it's a good idea in terms of trying to bring in new players and give people the opportunity to see where the game's at, but terrible for the current player base, their experience, and dealing with a week of basically, so many people when the free fly started, it's like, cool, well, I'll see you guys in a week or 10 days whenever the free fly is over. Because it's just like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to put up with it. But so
BRB.
Yeah, seriously. I'm gonna be on a long lurk. I'll be give me a week. But so to go back to then what they were claiming they wanted to focus on in January, do you feel like they've actually been able to make some headway in stability and some bug fixes since January?
Don't you think? I think so.
Well, the end of December was a real shit show for a lot of people. So compared to the end of December to now, I would say they fixed a little bit, but I feel like they just fixed it to the point that it was before CitizenCon. Because a month before CitizenCon, it wasn't that terrible. And then around the time of CitizenCon, it was horrible. And then I think it started to get better. And then 4.0 around Christmas made everything terrible again. So it's just it's a roller coaster. I know I'm new on this ride and I just got on it, but I'm noticing a trend. And I don't know what that correlates to yet, because I'm too new to see the correlation as to why we have to roller coaster this.
But then from a
why does it go
standpoint, wouldn't that make sense that, because new stuff comes in and then depending on how long it takes for the next more features or, mechanics to come in, that gives them more time to kind of iron out their current build? Because that's kind of how I've seen it. That's why I thought 321 or 320 were a good patch. And 323, and I may be confusing some of these, but we definitely will not speak of 318 or the beginning of 319. But for me, 320 was a very stable patch. 321 I thought was really good. 323 felt really good, and then there was 22 and 24 that kind of broke some stuff. But that's when some new mechanics or features kind of came in, and that I feel like is that's where the roller coaster comes from. Is you're going to get more stuff breaking because a lot of people will refer back to 317 and that entire year, I think it was, or a little bit more of that patch, because they went to 317.6 or it's 0.7 at the end. I forget. But anyways, that's when I kind of came into the game, and some of those sub patches weren't as good, but I remember 317.5 and 6 being awesome and playing a lot. And that's what really got me into the game, because there was some kind of stability there, or relative, playability.
I would feel more confident in understanding how CIG is handling things if there was some sort of workflow or spreadsheet I can see that shows every bug that they've had that they fixed before they released or changed features and did another patch. Because sometimes it feels like there's more they didn't fix as they entered more things into the mess sometimes. Like I don't have proof of that. For all I know, they fixed a bajillion things that have to do with ships I don't fly or I don't see on streams or I don't encounter in the game that I just didn't see. But from my standpoint, it looks like more of the bugs are being left unfixed as they integrate new things for us to have issues with.
Well,
so
they've openly
I
admitted
don't
that.
know.
They've openly admitted it in
Have
the
they?
past. Yeah. So, for example, with the transit system,
That they're not
right?
fixing bugs, they're just adding more.
Well, so they're, and Seg, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like their train of thought in the past up until server meshing was we just need to get server meshing in, and then these older systems will be refactored. So, but see, so that excuse was all the way up until meshing. Now after it, I think the reality is more they didn't, start working on these systems or really get them ready because actually no, that's wrong. They were with 4.0 was supposed to also bring the transit refactor and the mission refactor, and we only got one, which was the mission refactor, which we can debate on how well that worked. But the transit, not transmission, the transit refactor, that had to be pushed back because it just wasn't ready. And so they in that sense, they've admitted that they're leaving certain things as in because other technology is required to then refine the whole thing or redo the code. Another thing they've mentioned, but not directly in terms of this, was some of the people that started working on these systems no longer work at the company. So you essentially have to, and this is something you two can correct me on, but my understanding is it takes too much effort to try to understand another person's code rather than to start it over and work on it again and start from new.
Depends on their commenting and documentation on it, but
No, it depends on the system too. We're dealing with something so complex. You don't have a choice. You just gotta spend 3 months to get yourself familiar with the system, which is about the average time for training at any job. Give it about 3 months.
So then how do you feel about the argument they used of like, oh, well, no devs want to spend 6 months doing just bug fixing? Because I
didn't know that was an argument, but I mean, we have the patch notes. We follow the patch notes religiously. We know what they're fixing, what they're not, and I mean, they're aware of that too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, when it comes to the transit system in particular, because like, throughout the avocado patches, I noticed how the transit system was degrading. We did more server meshing tests, and we saw that the transit system was degrading the most. You can build server meshing. You could do your best with the transit system, but like after releasing server meshing, you're probably going to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. And you're probably going to want to go back to the transit system, refactor that. That's what I would do. So, or I need to do.
No, in that sense, I think it made absolute logical common sense to wait for certain things to be redone when such a huge piece of tech was coming in, right? So, and I think some people don't appreciate how big meshing is really.
It's a very, this is a very amazing technology. Just because other video games have achieved this technology before doesn't mean they've completed it in this context.
No, this is a way different use of it, because technically World of Warcraft has some sort of server meshing, right?
Yeah.
But not at all at the same scale, the same amount of detail. And we don't even need to talk about amount of entities that are being, streamed as you're moving around the verse comparatively to other games. And I think that goes, maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I am, but doesn't that go back to the scale issue that engines have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
So, all right. So let's talk about something that I haven't really talked about with anybody in a long time, because every time we talk about it, it gets pushed back 2 more years. Are either of you interested in Squadron 42? No.
Are you bite size?
would it shock anyone if I told you I don't actually know what it is? Is anyone surprised? Anyone want to do a shocked Pikachu face? Like, I realize we all keep talking about it. I didn't actually look up any of it. But thank you for asking the question.
I've talked about Gillian Anderson to you before. I know you know about Gillian Anderson.
You've
Yeah,
watched
the lady
X-Files.
from X-Files.
Yeah. That's all that matters.
Okay.
So you two are not so much. Is it because you're not so much story driven in games, or you're too heavily invested in the MMO sandbox, and that's more your
And the
jam.
community. And the community. The Squadron 42 community doesn't exist. So
It's true. Not
Yeah,
yet.
that's one thing I really love about Star Citizen. Like the community of Star Citizen is so friendly. Like in general, I'm not gonna say everyone, but like for the most part, like this community is very nice. Like I don't know anything about Squadron 42 because no one's ever talked to me about it. They just talked to me about Star Citizen.
The
a lot of us were
communities-
just
Sorry, go ahead.
a lot of us were just dreamers, you know, when we first got into this project and pledged it, we just dreamed it because Chris Roberts was going to achieve something nobody else had the balls to do. And I think he's doing that. He's still working on that. It's obviously he bit off more than he could chew, but we dream,
You know what?
right? And we're still dreaming.
I think to
Didn't they talk
that-
about Squadron 42 at CitizenCon?
Yeah.
That was the
You wanna
big
know what's
deal
really
at
funny about
CitizenCon,
that?
for a lot of us, at least. For me, I originally came in
I was
because
asleep.
of Star Citizen, but when I discovered Squadron, I was like, because I love space operas. I loved playing through Mass Effects. I love a great story.
I slept through the whole update. I slept through the whole thing. I was at the Ultimate Energy community booth, and I passed out in my seat through the whole thing. And I woke up, and I was like, "Did I miss anything?" And Seg's like, "No." And I was like, "Okay."
Chairs were very comfortable, though.
They were very comfortable chairs. I passed out.
Was that
So
before or after the
I still
drunk
don't know
live
what
stream?
Squadron 42 is because I was drooling on myself and snoring. I have no idea.
So the other reason why I bring that up is because, there's been the never-ending debate of how many people are working on Squadron compared to how many people are working on Star Citizen. And then over the last year, we saw the content dump coming in from Squadron 42 into Star Citizen, right? I guess for you two, the question should be more, are you hoping Squadron 42 comes out sooner than later so that they can refocus on Star Citizen? Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I think that's one thing that helped with the push this year of more stuff coming out was, they claimed it was in polishing phase, being finished, or feature complete, sorry. So more people were coming over to work on Star Citizen rather than Squadron. And then fast forward a year and we find out, we had to push a lot of those people back over to Squadron because, Gillian Anderson can't hold a P4 in the live demo. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Didn't you guys just tell me that no game is released fully polished? So what makes you think Squadron's going to be released and they're going to be able to refocus back to Star Citizen?
That's a good point. No, you're right. Just called me out on it. But no, I think okay, so for me the newest game I played, or two new games I played recently that had the least amount of bugs in them, were Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which was kind of impressive. Now, I'm not saying they were bug free. I'm just saying it was refreshing and impressive to finally see some bigger games come out a little bit more refined. No, I don't think Squadron will be bug free when it comes out. I don't expect it to. I don't think anyone who follows this project expects it to either. Or at least I don't think you should. But do you think there will be a serious change when Squadron's released in Star Citizen? Like in terms of it won't be immediate, right? But do you think that'll be one of the key defining things that can maybe help propel Star Citizen really towards that 1.0?
It'll definitely change things dramatically. Maybe not for the best. Who knows?
I was going to say, I think the first 6 to 12 months after it's released, Star Citizen is going to be hurting and people are going to have to hold on tight.
Yeah.
Because all the focus is going to go to the game that was released that may have issues.
So you think Star Citizen will get a pass for a few months?
I think Star Citizen is going to get less attention, which just might be more problems for us. At first. I'm not saying forever. I'm saying at first, if, on game release, it is going to take all hands on deck to make sure everyone who just bought a copy of that game gets a functioning game. Because it'll hurt them in the long run if they don't do that.
I feel stupid for not having thought of that, but that's a great point. At what point did I actually think that it would be a smooth release? I'm gonna go slap myself for that one. But it's okay. So you two aren't really story oriented so much, right? Or is that?
I mean, I
So
like
it doesn't mean.
stories.
Okay, well, another question: Are you interested and excited for more lore to come into Star Citizen and for us to have more of a story-driven experience, or does that not count for you because it's more of a sandbox?
Nobody in chat laugh at me. Actually, everyone in chat stop listening to me real quick. I actually don't know any of the lore in this game because I'm so new to it. No one, like, I don't even know where to look for it. I don't know what any of it is. I have no background on anything, and I just jump in the game and try to fly a spaceship.
Yeah, I don't see how the lore has anything to do with me because I'm an executive for an energy company and I don't have time for the UEE.
There you go.
This actually goes back to so one of the things Seg used to make fun of me for is because I don't know the lore in like Elven lore in Lord of the Rings. Like I don't know a lot of Tolkien lore. And he's like, how can you call yourself a hobbit and not know all the Tolkien lore? And I was like, because I'm a hobbit and I don't give a shit about the comings and goings of tall folk. And he was like, that is a viable answer, and I will never bring this up again. So sometimes lore just gets to be too much.
Yeah, it's good that it exists though, because there are people out there all about it. And I love the fact that, there's an alien language and people know how to speak in the alien language. Hilarious.
That is pretty cool. Some serious
Is
Star
that real?
Trek vibes,
I
right?
didn't know
Yeah.
that.
There's 2 languages now and people are speaking it. Cool.
So I think lore serves RP a lot, and I think that'll be a good thing. I love a good story. I'm a sucker for a good story. Like it's the only reason why I'm still in the entertainment industry. Otherwise, I would have left forever ago. But I do hope that it gives me a bit more meaning in the verse because I'm not someone who like you or like Day Hotshot like can create it out of nothing. That's just not how my brain works. I've never really tried RP. I am looking forward to doing more of that in Star Citizen because I created an org because I wanted to be a smuggler, and I can't do that right now, so I don't see the point in. So like I really appreciate it. So for me, I guess I just need to get more into the RP stuff, but I do hope that their main story they're bringing in does really help to just cement the immersion more than like make you want to play the game for a story. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I get it, and I like the stories, and I like having a storyline. And I love learning about the backgrounds. I've just never been shown any of it in Star Citizen. And when you jump into the game, nothing in the game gives you the lore. Like there's no you walk up to someone and they say, "Oh, this is so and so and they are our president of this." I don't know anything because there's nothing in the game that leads you to learn a storyline, right?
There's no progression of the lore. You just walk up and get it done.
Yeah.
I think the last game I played where there was like an actual like storyline to follow was Mass Effect, and I was really mad that I didn't get a parade at the beginning of every new game. So I was like, "Yo, F this storyline. I deserve a parade." And then the one game you start in prison? I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you real?
No,
Is
the
this really
second
happening?"
one.
So
Yeah, the second one you don't start in prison. You're remade.
whatever. It wasn't a parade, is what it wasn't. Okay, and I think I should get parades in Mass Effect. That's a completely different story. But like, yeah, I don't know any of the lore. So like, if Squadron 42 follows the lore of, I guess, the same world as Star Citizen, then that game might be appealing, unless it's all shooty, bang, bang. Because I can't do first-person shooters. I don't have the reflexes for them. I just don't. I don't anymore. Like I just shoot myself at this point.
No, I don't think everybody enjoys shooters either. Otherwise, that's all we would play, right?
Yeah.
I don't think for me the main appeal of Star Citizen wasn't the fact that there was an FPS component. It was the fact that there were all the components from FPS to flying to all that stuff combined together. And my biggest gripe with Starfield, besides it being a terrible story, was that they segmented everything and made you go through loading screens and only gave you a 5 square kilometer tile to run around and explore on, like, that was a big mistake on their part, I feel like, and that's why I don't think Starfield hurt Star Citizen in any way. I mean, that game didn't do as well as they thought it was going to be, but I think the real appeal of Star
Pieces of
Citizen
storyline.
was how big. Like,
Yeah.
see, so
Star
I mean, like,
Citizen
so
just gives you
storyline doesn't.
pieces.
Yeah, it doesn't make or break the game. It can make the game. If the game's good enough, I don't think it would break it. But I don't.
Like, didn't you guys have like an election once in game? Like, I would like to learn more about that. Where do I go to learn about that in game? Don't link me to a website. Where in game can I learn about the history of that election?
That's a good point. I never liked
Next
having to
question.
go to the vault to go find out
Don't
more.
next question me. Stop next questioning every time I ask a question.
It's an alpha.
It's an alpha. Thank you.
And you know,
Cynthia.
I did appreciate that at CitizenCon when they were like, we're gonna have, you know, a story.
Where do I get Belgian? Where do I get a data pad?
Well, that's the thing. Nobody found them because she hid them too well.
Yeah.
Who is
Yeah, they
she?
do.
I have so many questions.
The dev. It was from the ISC 2 weeks ago.
I don't watch
And,
those. Again, I fall asleep. I'm sorry.
That was what? That was the strategic reserves one. It's talking about supplier die. They hid the data pads too well, or nobody knew there were data pads, and that's kind of my gripe with Star Citizen. Sometimes, like, I would look for this stuff if I knew it was there, and that's why I do have a real big appreciation for people like AstroPub, and when he does his lore videos, like I gobble those up, no problem. I do love lore
Yeah.
because for me it helps me immerse myself into that universe.
It's good that he exists. I'm glad he does what he does.
Yeah, it's a good thing for us because CAG ain't doing it.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, is that the community is really doing the heavy lifting. A lot of the heavy lifting in this game. So that's why
Apparently,
we rock.
CIG is hiding it. They're hiding it in data pads that only Belgian Freak can find.
Well, because he spends hours just running around Area 18 looking for stuff. Like, I don't.
Oh yeah.
I can't do that.
Oh, wait. You can find this stuff in non-PvP areas?
I don't know if the data pads were around the cities, but during the, like, Christmas events, he just spent hours going around 18 looking for envelopes and little gifts and stuff like that. I forget how many
I
he
didn't even know
ended
that was
up
a
with.
thing.
I found out through him it was a thing. Like,
Okay.
I knew there was an event going on, but I hadn't seen any of it. So, all right. Last thing I want us to kind of chat about is, so we had a big deal happen this week, right? We got 4.1. What are your thoughts on 4.1 so far? And we don't have to go too in detail on, like, tier 0 stuff for loot and all that, unless you want to. I'm all for it. But just, have you guys been able to play 4.1 at all since it dropped, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, I always play PTU, so and it's
But in the
great. There's
live.
been a lot of fixes in it. Yeah, I prefer to do PTU than live. 100%. It's these events the FOMO events that gets me into live. I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back to PTU, or shit doesn't matter.
Really?
My only
Okay.
gripe about the 4.1 patch is the caterpillar doors. I kind of wish they would have just left them the way they were, but that's my opinion.
Do they not work?
Kit.
Or is
Makes
it?
things more difficult.
Gotcha. Because does
How
it
does it
come
make
down
things
as an
more
elevator or
difficult?
just angled down?
Yeah, because I used to use, when it was at the mid-level, I used to use that to hold on to cargo when I was loading it. Now I don't have those anymore, so stuff just bounces out of the spaceship.
Stuff just push the cargo in further.
Well, that's not always an option when you're at the tractor turret. You got to do the reach around. You don't always get it in the right place.
Stop
Yeah, I
doing
hope
the reach
they-
around with the tractor turret.
I hope they add
Yeah.
some mobility to some of those tractor beams on ships, just to get better
Yeah.
angles.
It's stupid because I'm getting
I-
good at it, and it's like nothing I'm proud of.
For me, on the Caterpillar at least, the tractor beam control should be a little drone that detaches and does your tractor beaming. Because how can you have
Yeah.
it just be, it can't be hard mount, or it's got to have a rail or something. Like the Polaris, for example, if they had a rail just going down the middle of the cargo bay that the tractor beam head could travel along, it would solve so many issues. I feel like those are still pretty limited.
Yeah, maybe we'll see that.
I could
So
have a
how,
whole podcast about the caterpillar because I'm just starting to play, like actually get the hang of it and play with it now. And there's so much I want to test with it and so much. I love the new elevators/doors. Like, I think those are great. I mean, everyone's like, oh, I wish it would stop halfway and then also keep going. And I'm like, whatever. It's not a big deal. Just push the cargo in further when you're loading it.
but what if it's
Stop your
already up
crying,
against the
Seg, is what I'm
wall?
saying.
All I'm saying is that you've owned the caterpillar for 24 hours now, and now you get strong
Yep.
opinions about it.
Yep, I do, because I've had to load it once and I saw no problems. I
Yeah.
saw zero problems. Loaded
Yeah.
it once, saw zero problems. Front of the caterpillar was loadable. It was so much nicer. Zero problems.
Let's touch base in another week from now.
Yeah, see how it goes. Let it cook.
Only do cargo runs, and we'll talk in a week. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question. I have to ask it. How do we feel about loot tier 0?
Oh,
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's just another change in the patch. That's all that is. Sometimes we get patches that are dramatic changes, and sometimes they're just testing stuff out or feeling out the UX of it. And that's all that is. We get in Star Citizen, we get these dramatic patches, and we just roll with it. Ride the roller coaster, baby.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, and they already claimed, they already, announced that it wasn't a finished project. It was going to be a
It doesn't even feel like
evolved
it.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're talking about.
You know, one thing I do like about it is the fact that people are wearing their fancy outfits and walking around now. Someone on stream said that Star Citizen's become more colorful. I like that.
So do you think it's becoming fashion
the thing where
citizen?
we don't lose our outfits. I get it
Yeah.
now. I'm in the conversation again. Hi. I got it.
So,
I'm back.
Do you think it'll become fashion citizen where it's just all about what you're wearing?
Oh God. Yes.
This should
Yes.
be.
At the beginning of, I must have watched like 3 or 4 people's streams that actually got into 4.1 with no issues, and the first thing they all did was start decorating themselves.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, hold on. And then some people flew over to like Orison to go shopping. Everyone was like, if I'm keeping the clothes, I'm buying the clothes. This is the perfect time for them to market someone like me. You sell me a dress, CIG. I will pay for a fucking cute skirt. I will not buy a spaceship, but I will bust out $5 if my character can wear a skirt.
So it's funny because you've just cemented for me what I think tier 0 is it's CIG's solution for monetizing armors more. Because before you could buy one, like I bought one, and I was like, oh sweet, I'm wearing games. Someone was like, if you die, you lose it, right? And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, refund. And I bought a ship skin because those were always attached to your ship, right? So for me, tier 0 is truly the first step in the solution for CIG to have higher monetization through armor sales in game.
Cosmetics.
Yeah,
Totally normal.
Which I'm okay with that and would support it if it means the, confirmation of no longer selling ships after 1.0. Like I get it. I'm not trying to take away all their avenues of monetization. Continue to sell ship paints, continue to sell armors, Hello Kitty stuff, Star Kitten stuff. Like totally okay with that. Just don't let that become if you buy with real money the Star Kitten Reisu, you get extra bonuses and perks in game. I hate that stuff. That becomes pay to win. I don't want that. But people want to wear a certain thing. They want to have a crazy outfit. I am all for it. Whether you want to make it in game or dump your hard-earned cash, that is everyone's own decision to make. But yeah, I don't think
Seg paid for me to run around in a pink suit.
Yes, I did.
Which is,
I think he and I keep joking. He just didn't want to be the only one running around in the pink outfit, so he bought it for me so we can run around in the pink outfits together.
If I was to buy the outfits for myself, I'd probably get in trouble that she doesn't have an outfit too, so I had to cover the base there.
No, you did the right thing. I think you did the right thing. But all right, do you guys have anything else you wanted to add, or?
It sounds stupid, but I think that we should have faith in the creators of this project because we've seen progression over time and we've seen a genuineness from them. So, they're still trying to do stuff that other people aren't trying to do. So, I mean, I would just have faith in them. It doesn't hurt to do that.
No, I agree. I would agree with that. I'd say I have faith, but at the same time, like, to go back to what I was saying earlier, is I don't necessarily feel the need to. I don't want to feel the need to have to open up my wallet. So, but I'm still 100% supportive of this project. I want to see it succeed, and you said that there has been progression, and I completely agree. And I think sometimes you have to remind people, like, one of the things that used to drive me insane was like, oh, you play that game, it's a scam. I'm like, okay, first of all, we need to define what a scam is for you, because you clearly don't know what it is.
Yeah.
The day before was a scam. Star Citizen is a game in development, because you can actually play it. There's stuff. It actually works. Stuff like that. Anyways, there's actually a real game around it.
Right. Even if this game completely disappeared like in a week, I still wouldn't think it's a scam because I've been playing it. I don't.
Exactly. And, I think sometimes people just need to be reminded of the definition of words. But, yeah,
Kerbal Space Program 2 is a scam.
Kerbal Space? Oh, that was a total scam. Or
It's
that
still
was
up for sale on the Steam
rip-off.
store.
I tried getting my money back, and
Yeah.
Steam said no because you played 6 hours. I was like, yeah, but it took me 6 hours to get into the game, get the game working, build a ship to inevitably see it fail over and over because the physics are broken. So I feel like I still deserve my money back.
Yeah.
But that's a great example. And
Don't speak to me about scams. Kerbal Space Program 2.
yeah, there you go. Or what was the other one? Or no, the one that I'm now looking forward to is Space Kittens, Space Kitten Agency.
Yes.
That.
Oh, for the right reasons too.
Yeah, all for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yes.
That
Very
one
exciting.
I'm hoping is going to be what we wanted KSP2 to be. Because when they start talking about like intergalactic travel, I was like, yes, please.
Yeah. They said multiplayer, and I said bullshit. I said there is no way they're going to get multiplayer, and I still don't think you'll make Kerbal multiplayer, because then you're making Star Citizen, and that's not a small project.
No, it's not a small project. And I thought that was really interesting that you mentioned KSP as a example for like the engine problems. I guess I didn't push. I didn't push hard enough to really see that become a problem for me in KSP, but like it makes a lot of sense. And in terms of scale, yeah, it's kind of one of the only comparable games.
Really? Yep.
And yeah, KSP2 was such an amazing disappointment.
In 2012, Star Citizen was the only game that was looking to be from space to planet surface,
Right.
So that was a major innovation when they achieved that in 3.0.
Which is still
Nobody
super
else is
impressive.
doing that.
No, nobody.
And it was never supposed to be that.
There's one game now that's trying to do it, but it's a small team. I think it's a French dev team or a Quebecois team, and it's called Conga, Qanga. I tried it out because it's a super ambitious project, kind of trying to do something similar to Star Citizen, but they are years behind what Star Citizen's already achieved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting to see those types of games now becoming a bit more in style, I guess, or people trying to push those limits. Because that was my biggest disappointment with Starfield. I was like, why did I play this? Like, it's not at all a true space sim. Like, I did not feel immersed in that world at any point. Whereas Star Citizen,
it was going to kill Star Citizen.
It was a Star Citizen killer. You guys don't know what you're waiting for, and they pushed more people to Star Citizen, in my opinion, than it took away.
That's true. A lot of us thought that too. It's like they're eventually going to come here because they're not going to be able to get what they want at Fallout in space.
Yeah, the Spacefall Rim wasn't. Spacefall Rim. There we go. Wasn't great. I have very low expectations for the new Skyrim coming out. Elder Scrolls. Sorry. But yeah, so your ending message, Seg, would be have faith.
Yes.
Be a good
Amen.
tester.
Yes.
Help out in the PTU.
Yes.
What about you, Hobbit? What's your ending thoughts on the game?
Ending thoughts on the game. I think everyone should just jump into this the same way with the same like sort of mentality I have, where it's just do what you want to do, break what you can break, You know, don't just like on Seg stream they have like that little game, that Star Citizen game that they all play, and everyone does the same thing over and over and over. Switch up your gameplay, switch up what you're doing, change methods, change commodities, are you salvaging, are you mining, are you going after bounties? Like do different things, like actually test different aspects of the game, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be testing. And so many people get into the game and they just do one thing. And you're not, at that point, you're just testing that one thing over and over again. We're supposed to be testing. And I think I may be looking at this completely different from everyone else. Like everyone and I realize there's a lot of people in there and everyone's testing their own thing, but you have to branch out. You have to because not everyone does the same thing the same way. So just keep being reckless, I guess, in the game is my advice. I approve recklessness.
I mean, I don't know if I'd actually say it's reckless. I think that's just healthy.
Well, like, look how Becky on Blast plays the game.
She's just constantly trying to break stuff.
Constantly, yes. Be reckless.
She can't walk into a hangar without something blowing up. It's impressive.
That's one of the things.
Becky and I we've agreed we can't be on the same ship together.
What does it say?
That's one of the things for testing at scale is when you get these player behaviors. Like you need a wider audience for testing to get outside of the player behaviors and address the actual defects that you'll never see unless you have 10,000 people with different behaviors.
Otherwise, because everyone does. We could do the same exact thing. Like Seg and I both do cargo running. Seg buys his commodities and runs the trade and sells them at trade terminals. I do the cargo missions. So like we're doing similar gameplay, but doing it differently. Right? And that's what people have to then, like, I have to switch roles with him. I have to now try to do what he's doing. And I have to try it in different ships. And I have to try it, like, different locations. I can't just keep doing the same locations as if I'm money grinding. I have to actually test, does this outpost work? No, the elevators are broken at every outpost on a planet. Sorry for trying. But at least I know that.
That's
like, at least I've gone and checked.
I've been so frustrated with freight elevators.
Just go and check. Just go try something new. Like, even if the commodity's not going to earn you any money, or even if that salvage isn't going to earn you any money, just go see if it works, I guess would be my advice. Because the faster we test everything, the faster some of this stuff could be looked at, possibly. All I'm saying.
True. But then
except elevators. Nobody tests elevators. Everyone stop testing elevators.
Well, it's too. We can't. How are you supposed to get around them? Yeah, I mean, I'm totally down for stair citizen. Give me some stairs. I'll take some stairs, especially in a virtual game where I'm not physically doing it. Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. So I'll run up some stairs or not. But I think you're right. I think it's. I think I would look at it more of like it's just healthy for you and yourself to try different things and put yourself into vulnerable positions where you maybe don't know what you're doing, but you'll get the chance to learn something new and potentially grow a little bit as a player. Maybe add something to your loop. One of the things I used to really like to do was fly to a planet, take a bounty, from there take a bunker, from there try to hit a derelict or something close by, then go back to a station and start it all over again. I like to try to start chaining things together to see if, it made sense and what was like a funner, faster paced game loop, I guess. So no, I think it's just healthy to want to try out different things. To the point of the testing though, and so the reason why you pay a tester is they are there to provoke bugs, right? That's their job. They're looking for them. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get a lot more information out of that person than someone who's just trying to do bunkers over and over again, right? Even though there's still very useful data to be had there, I'm sure. What people are going to try to force is not the same. Like I go to bunkers and end up throwing my pistol off the wall as we're going down the elevator for it to bounce back and hit my feet. That was a wonderful test in Star Citizen that gave me a lot of joy. But if you're just walking in, standing on the elevator, going in and doing those same thing repetitively, I get CIG is not going to get those data. But I go back to, if you want that, you have to pay for people to give you that service. Actually, one of my exes when I was in high school, or just came out of high school, her dad worked for a game testing company. Their job was they got contracted by studios and would test the game thoroughly over 1 to 6 months, depending on how deep they wanted the bug finding to be. And that was an entire industry, which feels like it's completely disappeared. And it's more of the players have become more the guinea pigs. Now, one of the things I'd like to see, and I think would be a really big tool for Star Citizen in terms of helping with the development and true testing, is an in-game bug reporting tool or something.
Yeah.
That could be just streamlined and help incentivize people to do it instead of, okay, hold up. If you have 2 monitors, it's a lot easier. Okay, I just tab out, go over to Spectrum, whatever. I can do my thing. People who are playing on a single monitor, it's more annoying. Streamline it for us. Give us more incentive. Maybe give us a little bit more guidelines for people like me who are completely clueless as to what should be, looked at in testing. I think a lot of people would be open to that. Now, there'd still be a plenty who would be like, nah, I'm not here to test. I'm here to play a game, whatever. It's fine. But at the same time, you also agreed you're playing an alpha, so you're testing whether you want to be or not. But I think if you give people a better tool and maybe call it guidelines, which I know already exist, but you just make them a bit more obvious, I think that would seriously help CIG kind of sift through all of the reports they get.
I agree. Soon TM, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, soon. I mean, everything's soon in this game.
If CIG would just give me a list of things they wanted tests, like if they gave us the community itself a list of things that they're like, hey, can you guys look at this? We would. I'm almost positive the community would test the shit out of specific
It's in the patch
items.
notes. Every time we get patch notes, we got a checklist of all the things we're supposed to test. Most people don't do that.
Everything.
Yeah. We got a whole list of things
They're
we're
like
supposed to test.
And when we test it, do they fix those things?
Yeah, they're not always broken. They're just features. They're a list of features. We have to test them.
So that's a good way of looking at it. So, and I've seen people do that on stream. Okay, they said they fixed this. Let's go see if they fixed it. Or they added this. Let's go see what this is about. And actually, that's a good point. Maybe it's just they need to word it for people who aren't going to look at it like that.
I thought that was just them saying this is what we worked on. I didn't realize that was them saying this is what we want to see you work on.
Well, why give it to us in the patch notes? That's the whole point. We're testers. This is what you're supposed to test. It says that in the patch notes. This is the new features, and this is the bug fixes that we did. You could choose to test all of them if you want.
And I think it's interesting that you put it that way because, I don't know if I would have necessarily looked at it like that. But now that you say it, yes, it makes a bunch of sense. It makes a ton of sense. But I think then that's on them to maybe give a little nudge, hint to the community and be like, hey, for those of you who aren't necessarily coders or understand how this process works, if you guys could help us go through this list of stuff, that'd be really, really great. And this is what we've been working on, by the way. These are the changes. Now
I got to go read the patch notes to see if it reads like that because I've never actually read patch notes. I'm going to be 100% honest. I have never read patch notes. I
have. I mean, I've read them
I break
before,
stuff.
but I don't always have the reaction of, I want to go try that. Sometimes I'll see something and be like, is that really true? And I'll go. But I've never looked at it as like, I need to go test all these things because that's what's best for the game. And I think just, maybe sometimes a little nudge, hint would probably go a long way for that.
That's the common discussion in the Avocado Spectrum channel is like just the list of things that we're supposed to test. But also, I think what they're doing now, instead of making some interface for testing like a checklist, we just have these events that are specifically tailored to test these features. So they're just kind of walking us through it that way.
That's actually a really good point. That's a feeling that I think a lot of people are starting to get now, that like this content. Well, I think that's actually what they meant by content driven in that last ISC, which is we're going to drive the development through these content things that you can now participate in, get some cool rewards, FOMO, but also they're going to focus on the specific mechanics or tech. So like, I mean, one thing I do hope that comes out of this supply or die thing is, guys, just learn how to fix the freight elevators, please. Like, I beg you. There's so much gameplay that I want to do around those, but that's limited and becomes kind of unplayable. That is super frustrating. And if you gave me a list of things that they need to get data from to make those happen, I would sign up, no problem. But, you know, I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer. I don't necessarily always go into that mindset. But I completely understand. I hear you when you say it. I'm like, oh, well, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
The freight elevator feature is not even a year old yet, so I think it's still kind of new, still young.
Yeah, and I get that. I get that. You know, and to go back and say, because again, I like to try to point out the positive where there's positive, because being a negative Nancy all the time isn't fun. But I think they've made some good changes on how they do things. I think the way they change, you know, we're rolling back to free flight. That was a great change. I think the way...
Yes, that was amazing.
I think the way that they have tried to communicate over the last few months has been a little better. It's still always going to be a little cagey, and I think we always kind of go in expecting them to tell us everything, but there's no world where that it makes any sense for a company developing something to tell you everything. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like, credit where credit's due, server meshing is impressive. It works. You know, it may not be perfect, but it works. Like, hats off to CIG for that. I would like to see them restructure PTU a little bit more. I don't really like the wave system so much, but that's, you know, I guess more of a personal thing for me. I think either tell us exactly what you're trying to achieve with your different tests in terms of, like, you know, we're looking for this amount of players, we're looking for this amount of players. I mean, and they may not even necessarily know, but in the end, what I'm trying to say is I just want, I would love to see the experience, you know, get a little bit better to the point where you don't have to spend, you know, time on every stream going, well, yeah, I know that doesn't work, but just give it some time, let it cook. You know, that also gets kind of tiring for me as a streamer. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, it's difficult as a streamer, but we're always getting new content fed to us, you know. Like, a bug is content. It always makes things interesting. We don't have that in Minecraft. When you stream Minecraft, everything is safe and reliable, nothing breaks. It's kind of boring.
I do see. Yeah, I agree. You know, I had never thought I could toss my weapon off a wall and it would come back to my feet, but that was a great moment in the game. It was actually Bethesda that said this. It's like, oh, we keep our bugs in because it gives our game character. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Some of them, okay, maybe, but when I'm trying to talk to an NPC and they're stuck behind a pillar and I can't actually see them, no, fix that. Like, and that's been a problem with you guys since Skyrim, so please fix that. But so I think there is a little bit of charm in some features, excuse me. But I don't know. Well, all right, everybody, I think we're going to end it here. Thank you so much, you two, for joining us. Let me make sure.
Thanks for having us.
I get Seggellion a shout out here.
The modding community, Jake, mate. All about the modding community. That's why Kerbal Kitten Space Program is able to exist, because of the modding community.
Oh yeah, same reason why DayZ still exists is because of the modding community. Yeah, it's so many games. Well, that's how Starfield was kind of thought out too. They were like, basically like, we're gonna let the community come in and take over, and just tell us whether this is something they're gonna want to invest a lot of time in or not.
It's tricky. Game development's hard. Period.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think the expectation should be that it's easy and quick.
No. It's phenomenal how difficult it is. Absolutely phenomenal.
Wait, does your name have 2 L's? Damn it.
GGLL.
GGELL?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I always thought you had 1. There you go, everybody. Please go show Seggellion some love. Make sure to drop a follow for Hobbit. And yeah, I'll have this up on YouTube probably in a couple days. I've got a few other videos I got to get up first, and then I'll let you all know in chat when it's available. I'll put in the Discord and all of that, so we should go check that out. And again, yeah, thank you. This was a awesome podcast to have with a Star Citizen couple A, which is always fun. And then Seggellion, I really appreciated your tech insight. I don't think that's something that I hear enough of in a lot of Star Citizen podcasts, and I think some people do seriously have an interest in that. So maybe there's a concept there, something to do with that. We'll see. But
Cool.
again, thank you so much for joining. We're going to figure out who we're going to raid.
Are we gonna shout out for Bite-Size Hobbit as well?
Yes, of course.
We did.
When
We
you gonna
need to.
When are you gonna stream next, Bite-Size Hobbit?
It's a good question. I was gonna stream tonight, but there's so many people streaming that I feel like that's just a polluted ocean right now.
Yeah.
But I do really I want to test the caterpillar to see if I get sick of it in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see if in a week I'm like, F these doors.
Have you only been doing cargo runs, Hobbit, or you've been doing anything else? Besides when I drag you to a contested zone.
I haven't actually played a ton, but for what I like to do is I like to just load cargo up and fly it around.
Can I hire you to load cargo?
It's been hard because I only had an Intrepid for the longest time. And last night, as I was getting drunk on stream, some of the pirates showed up and were willing to give me in-game money so I could buy better ships.
Because they clearly have plenty of it. Piracy's been good to them.
Piracy has been very good to them. They had tons of money to give me for ships. So
She's been doing the hull. She's been doing the hull A before that as well.
Yeah, I rent the hull A.
Yes.
I rent the hull A. I load it up.
Seggellion, what have you been doing, or have you? So you don't play much live at all, then, right? Or are you?
Yeah, just for FOMO. I still stream Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we're going to be doing a giveaway for the Golem next. So if anybody out there wants to get into the giveaway, we're going to start that on Monday, BTW.
Yeah, make sure to go drop them a follow and join in on that. If you want a nice little starter miner.
Yep.
Check out the Drake. Hobbit, when's your next stream, you said? Maybe tonight? If not,
it might be tonight.
What's your normal schedule?
We'll see how I feel. My normal schedule is random because my day job is a headache sometimes, and if it's a big enough headache during the day, I can't stream at night. I just can't. I'm like, I just need snacks and to curl up and maybe just cry by myself for a while. But I try to do like every other day, but that's not happened in like 2 or 3 months. So usually just on the weekends, like a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So I'm random because I just can't. My brain won't let me Star Citizen after I have to work all day.
I get that. Sometimes I have to move it around too. But everyone, please make sure you show Hobbit some, because you've been doing great.
You can catch me not.
Great. You've been doing great. Yeah, your stream's been
great. What?
I
was drunk on my last stream. That's not.
We're not talking about the content. Just saying your stream
content.
It is great content. Everyone, go check out the clip I made of Hobbit's thoughts on Hans Gruber and Spaceballs compared to Star Wars. Please. I want that to be your intro, by the way. I still maintain that should be your intro.
Nobody go look at my clips.
My
clips are terrible.
Who's going to make it first? Seggellion or me to bring the clip over and post it in chat? All right.
You guys don't need to put my clips in chat. Are you guys both looking for my clips? Why do you both look like you're looking for clips?
Don't worry about it.
I'm always
it's fine.
Clips.
This is fine. Don't pay attention.
Listen, you two. Hey. Don't we gotta raid someone? Didn't you say something about raiding someone?
Yeah, that can wait. Don't worry.
Wasn't there a raid?
Yeah, that can wait.
Weren't we doing a raid? What happened to the raid? How'd this turn into make fun of Bite Size?
She's got so many clips. So many clips.
People clip the hell out of me. I have no idea what's happening. I should go through them, but I don't want to see them.
Only clips.
Only clips.
Only clips.
Go through my only clips.
Wait,
I think I just got to drink less.
why is Twitch becoming so annoying to navigate?
I don't know. Seems like a you problem.
Well, it's the one by me. Why do you have how many?
That's what I'm saying. I can't find it.
It's gone.
Needle in a haystack. Could
Wait,
be
hold up. I think.
destroyed by the Empire.
Damn it. So I can find it on my. Anyways, all right. Well, you'll just all have to believe me when we say there's a fantastic clip.
An epic clip.
Epic. That you should all go check out. But all right. Again, thank you, everybody. Blade the Daywalker, thank you so much for your follow. While
I have it.
was
I'm
off
looking
stream.
at it. I don't know why you
No,
guys
you're
can't
not.
find it.
No,
I am. I'm
Well,
looking at it
your
right now.
secret.
So you're
Keep your
gonna
secrets,
you're gonna post
Hobbit.
it.
Do
Hobbit's
you want
gonna
me to post it?
Yes,
Is it the
post
one
it.
titled "Best Clip Ever"?
Yes.
Yes. The community demands it.
They must see. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Best clip ever.
Clipped by Letiredd.
Let's see.
Well done.
God knows what I was saying. You guys got to stop letting me drink on stream, okay? That's all I'm saying.
It's kind of like, what you tell me is like, as long as the option's there, people are gonna do it. If anyone wants to stare at some walls on stream, I suggest you join me tomorrow. We're great at it. It's become a new thing, a new trend. Stare
Good
at the
for
wall.
you.
All right. Thanks again for joining. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the gifted subs, the follows, all of that. You're all amazing. I really appreciate it. Look for this to be on YouTube in the next couple days. We're going to throw up the ending screen and go find someone to raid. And again, giant thank you to Seggellion and Hobbit. Please make sure to go throw them a follow. Seggellion streams 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day, or just weekdays? Sorry.
Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday. So make sure to go check them out. When's the next yacht club?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's either this Thursday or next Thursday.
Awesome. So make sure to go check out the
question.
podcast that Seggellion also is a host of, which is called the Yacht Club
Yes,
SC.
that's true.
And very cool chats about ships and game and all that. So you'll love it. Make sure to go drop them a follow as well. And yeah, everybody.
Sorry.
What's up, Kevin?
Easy.
All right, everyone. Again, thank you. You've all been fantastic. Seriously.